Okay, so I'm just putting together some videos while I'm out here. Something's going on with my cameras. I don't know what the fuck's going on. They keep sharing images with each other, and then they fill up the phone with videos. I don't know if I downloaded a virus or something when I was uploading. I don't know. So anyways, what we're doing here today is, what I'm doing here today is, it's a shitty day out. There is some texture in the sky that I could digitally collect the EMNC from the sky, but I've already been on the trees for a little while, so I'm gonna stay on the trees. And this camera has a brown filter on it, but that's fine. I can still see the images everywhere. Feline, canine, rodent, ape, human, and beast faces only. And as I'm collecting from the trees, I'm looking around for some rocks and stones. I'll probably get the camera aimed back at the clouds in a few minutes. But right now, just because I'm talking to the camera, it's just easier to leave it in one spot. And I'll get back to the clouds in a little bit. So one of the things that I'm talking about today, because I'm big on it right now, is I'm investigating the Tartarian timelines. So during the Tartarian timelines, listening to these people talk about it, people have some really, really good points to a lot of things. They have evidence that they won't even admit is evidence because they're afraid. They're afraid if they say anything, people will say that they're crazy and they're nuts. They're putting things together. The real ones are putting things together really well. And if it wasn't for the fear of all the lies that we all live by, and it's being forced down their throat, I can see they're, going through a lot of shit that I certainly would not go through, as far as lying CIA, Freemasonry, Illuminati scum coming into their channels and try to tell them, it's conspiracy theory and there's no evidence for it. There's way evidence for it. Way evidence for what these guys are all putting out there. It does not make the Tartarians the truth tellers, though. Even though they had technologies and we're using the technology that we are now today denied and we lie to ourselves about, because we tell ourselves that all these things are done by nature. Hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, volcanoes, all these natural things we're told happen through nature and God and all this kind of shit, right? Which is not the case. We have a true creator. We have a false creator/creator. We have a human bio realm that we live in. It's not a hologram. It's not a matrix. It's none of the things that we were ever told it is. Not in the movies, not in the books, nothing. I also want to point out, as I'm making this series to one of these Tartarian conspiracy sites, is who this series is going to be made to. I haven't even decided yet who, but I like them. I'm going to find at least 3 of them that I like, the same way I usually do, and I'm going to make a series to them. They point out some truths in reality throughout their videos that are just, I love hearing. I love seeing that they're not afraid to point out truth and fact, even if they're not pointing it out as truth and fact. But I'd much rather them do it that way, rather than the way that they are. A lot of them doing it is they're verbally saying that this is theoretical. What I'm showing all of you, if any of these people that are calling the Tartarian timeline theoretical, they would not need to do that anymore. They would see, you could go and use your own eyes to see today, in this day and age, right now, 2025, you can see that the system is all still there for us to use. The same way it was there for us to use under the Tartarian timelines. We just lie to ourselves and say that it's not, and pretend that that's craziness. And we put up electrical lines all over the fucking earth when they were not necessary, so that they could make what they call money, waste energy, waste 40 to 60 hours a week out of your life. And that's only to begin with. Because when you look at all the things that you're paying taxes on, aside from your employment, because you have to pay 1/3 of your paycheck one-third of your paycheck. So 3 months out of every year of your salary that you work for automatically gets taken away before any other taxes, before your insurance taxes, before your sales tax, before your mortgage tax, before your state tax, before your property tax. I mean, you get taxed the fuck out of you to the point where 7-8 months out of every year is all taxes, and everything that's left is paying down the principal on your home. And then even when you do pay your home off, you still don't own it because the government's still going to own it due to taxes. So you don't own nothing. So that whole story that they told us over the last couple hundred years about you'll someday own nothing and be happy, that's already happened. They tell you about things and put it out into the human bio fake ass realm after it's already been done for a long time. Such fucking zombie slave, man. All right, so as I'm watching these Tartarian timeline, I'm going to have to think of another name for it. I want to point out this part, too, about our lies. The maps that you guys are all reading, talking to the Tartarians, to my fellow Tartarians, those maps that you guys are reading were written with the human hand. Anything that comes off the human tongue comes from the human thought, rolls off the human fingers into ink, and then that ink put down onto paper, the way those maps are that you're looking at, are all lies, okay? So even though you're finding truth and reality in the Tartarian timelines, you have still a lot of lies to unravel and go through. And I'd say be careful about those lies. And maybe the ones that you cannot prove visually, then just, okay, those ones, fine. You have to pronounce them as theoretical, all right? Probable, more probable, you could even use, right? I understand that safety net, but what I'm showing you, you don't have to do that. What I'm showing you, you can all go see for yourselves and go do for yourselves, is called Digital Collection of Electromagnetic Nanocarbon from the area we call the tree over there. That's it. It's that fucking simple, right? And you'll see that it's all feline, canine, rodent, ape, human, and beast. You will see that it's faces only. This is going to explain a lot to you. Not with the human tongue, not with the human lies, not the bullshit stories. You will see that it's this way from the veil to the ground. You will see that it's this way in the moon. You will see that it's this way in all landscapes, trees, rocks, stones, which was proved to you without a doubt. These other things that I've been telling you all for the last 10 years. The idea that the true creator is one. In the true creator's energy, we are all one. We all in this bio realm that was created by a false creator / creator, the creator of the bio realm that is, does use math, does use timelines, does use time. But all these timelines that are here by the true creator's energy, we only call them timelines because we're living in the false creator / creator's realm. We are the build and the manufacturing of the false creator / creator, okay? The true creator's builders may be building us, that's a fact. But that doesn't mean the true creator gives a fuck about the bio realm. Doesn't care that the false creator / creator stole his energy and used it to build a bio realm within it. Does not care. I don't see any evidence that the true creator cares about that, and I've been looking for 10 years. I'm going to go to another tree so I don't get too bored. Okay, this is another tree that I'm on right now. Digital Collection of Electromagnetic Nanocarbon from this tree over here. Okay, so I'm really loving this Tartarian timeline thing that everybody's looking into right now. So I started, my other camera shut down on me, so I already told a good quarter of this story, but I'm going to try to do this again. So back in 2000, let me mention this first. Okay, these PSYOPs that they put out there, the Tartarian timeline was put out one of the first times in public to make a big deal out of it. The PSYOP was done by President Putin of Russia. And he did this just a few years ago, 2-3 years ago, I believe it was. As a matter of fact, it was when Trump was in his last term, actually, so it was longer than that. It was before the Lion Mama Conan-19 virus. Putin came out with a map pointing at the Tartarian timelines. I'm sorry, pointing at the map where the Tartarians supposedly were during this period, okay? So I worry about that. I worry about that because when you think back to the other PSYOPs, they want to be ready. So that doesn't mean that the Tartarians didn't exist just because he's creating a new PSYOP. It just means they want control of reality. That's all that means, because they did the same. They do it all the time. But another time that they did it that you all may remember is when President Obama came out, and I believe it was his second year in office or something, and he came out on the world stage and during a press conference and said at the end of a meeting, at the end of a speech or whatever, he says, "Oh, I'm sorry," into the microphone real loud. "We don't have time for a meeting with the Flat Earth Society." And then with his nice, handsome face, puts on a big fucking smile and walks off the stage laughing. Well, that was the first time that anybody knew there was a Flat Earth Society, because they also were a PSYOP. Even though almost everything that they were saying in the Flat Earth Society was reality-based and true, they have to be in charge and in control of everybody's conception of reality. And that's how they do it. They try to stay one step ahead. So for that reason, I say be careful of the Tartarian bullshit stories that we're all being told and that we're listening to. Okay? So with that said, most of what I'm hearing about the Tartarian timelines and all the facts that are behind it all make perfect sense. They fall into perfect place. Even with the being unsure about 700 missing years, 1,000 missing years, when were they missing, when were they taken out, all that kind of shit, that all makes perfect sense to me, because I'm already onto things that are way beyond all that I would love to share with anybody who would have an open mind, enough of an open mind to face reality and see things for what they are. Because we can see the false creator/creator's clock. We call it the moon. We made up bullshit stories that it's a big ball in the fucking sky that goes around our earth and all this kind of nonsense. Yeah, it goes around our earth and it's circular, but it does not work like a ball. It goes around like a clock, and it is a clock. It's the false creator/creator's clock. The true creator don't need a clock, because in the true creator's energy, time is all one. But in the false creator/creator's system, time does exist. Then humans come into the picture after being created by the false creator/creator who built the bio realm. Then this fucking idiots come in and fuck everything up. I'm going to also keep mentioning throughout all these videos, when was that timeline? Well, you guys are not looking back far enough, my fellow Tartarians. When we were in the Tartarian timelines, we were already lying to ourselves about a lot of things, okay? A lot of things we're being lied to about and lying to ourselves about already. You'll know the evidence of that in the blocks that the Tartarians were using. When you can get back to 10,000 to 12,000 years ago, when you get back to that timeline and you see the 700-ton stones that we were moving and things that we were doing and moving, what we call today, we call it underground. We say that these cities were built underground. Well, that doesn't account for several resets that happened over these 10 to 12,000 years that all included major disruptions in what we today now know as mud floods. All right. We don't know how many of those happened. So what we call underground tunnels today may have been stolen property from 10 to 12,000 years ago when that underground was not underground. That underground that we call it today was above ground. And the only reason it's underground today is because we've had so many of these mud floods. Now, when we unburied the mud floods from the Tartarian system, granted, that was great. But when you go back to ancient Rome and ancient Egypt and ancient Peru and ancient Americas and other ancient blocks, these huge fucking blocks that no human, even under the Tartarian rule, knew how to move. They obviously could not move them. Here's another thought. This one's theoretical. What if the giants and the little people, us being us, what if that story had some merit? What if those 700-ton stones with those big, huge fucking doors that would be unnecessary for humans our size, what if those were the 10 to 12,000 year old buildings? The Tartarians come in, they had no need to move 700-ton stones because that didn't suit their statute, right? That didn't their height, their build. It didn't fit it. So it was unnecessary. That's why them moving 20-ton stones, 50-ton stones, 100, not even 100-ton stones. I don't even see, in the Tartarian builds, I don't see any stones that size. But I'm just saying, if there is, then what you could also say is, well, Mike, they had the technology to move those 700-ton stones, because obviously they did, because there was no machinery or equipment, so it had to be moved by the electromagnetics, the same electromagnetics that were claiming that were being moved to move those 700-ton stones. The Tartarians obviously had that, because it's not like they had cranes, it's not like they had mechanical shit with combustion engines or steam engines or anything like that, and big chains and shit like that. They didn't have wires on poles for their electricity. They were grabbing their electricity right from the atmosphere. So we knew they knew how to use this system that we now today use to create weather. So we humans now today, because we're such fucking liars and we like lying to ourselves about everything, so what we do is we tell ourselves that it's Mother Nature that's moving the clouds, making it rain, causing hurricanes, earthquakes, tornadoes. We can do EMP attacks, direct energy weaponry, that the same direct energy weaponry that they used to take down the Tartarian timelines, the same ones that caused the mud floods. There's nothing, and they tell little truths about shit like that in the Bibles. So when you look at you look in the book of Genesis and Revelations 20, they talk about the mountains melting like wax. That was the time of one of the mud floods. One of them, because there were many of them over the 10 to 12,000 year period. Something I like mentioning when we're talking about this 10 to 12,000 year ago period was that black humans were in charge of the earth at that time. Black humans were in charge of the earth, and the only time in history that I can see that we were ever being honest and truthful with ourselves and each other. So during that timeline is when we should be looking back for the most reality we had ever had before. Because under the Tartarian timelines, I'll grant you this, I see the reality in it. I do see that. The same way I see reality in the, I won't use the term, just like I don't think we should be using the term Tartarian. I think it needs to be renamed by realists. I think the realists that are out there, the truth tellers, the ones that are looking for reality, they should not use the Tartarian names to name them. We should come up with our own terminology. The same way that the moon should be renamed. The same way that the earth that we walk on should be renamed or recalled. Everything needs to be renamed in order to stop and drop all these lies that everybody's living by, all right? Okay, so as I'm watching these guys come up with all these things about the Tartarian timeline, one of the things that they talked about the mud floods was something that I noticed about 10 years ago. That's how I came across Nick Research. Nick Research, I think he's Russian. He's European anyways. Russian, maybe Austrian, I don't know. Look him up. I haven't looked him up. Last time I looked him up was probably about 6 years ago. And I did find his channel, but he wasn't doing anything new. He had kind of gone away. Or if he did, he was under another name, working under another name. All right, so. All right, so I was building up to something in the last video. I want to continue on. I'm trying to get to some things. It's not easy. Got a lot of distractions around me. People walk by. I got to stop talking. Got music in the fucking background over here. Got a fucking tractor lawn mowing lawn on a rainy day. A lot of weird shit. All right. So around 10 years ago, I was telling my story about when I was going around and measuring curvature. That's how the last video I got cut off on, right? So I'm going around my 300-mile radius around the 3 states that I live in. I live in Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island. Sometimes New Hampshire and Vermont come into play. It depends on what's going on. So during this time, I went mountain to mountain. You have to get up on the mountains if you're going to measure curvature, because it's just, I explained it already. I don't even know if there's enough time on that video to even play the video, but so anyways, one day I was in the Quabbin Reservoir, and I was there measuring curvature, but I wanted to take a walk, just look at some old places that used to exist, and a strange story that I'm going to tell you about the Quabbin Reservoir in Massachusetts. It stretches right now, the Quabbin Reservoir itself stretches, under Obama, he spread it out even further. I want to say 50 to 60 miles circumference all around, a 360 degree radius, I should say, all around this area, this one contained area. Well, there's a good story about that area. I will go in when I remaster some videos, and I'll tell you more about it, and I'll show you more. But right now, I just want to talk a little bit about that time, because it's coming into play now. So back when I was at the Quabbin, and I'm asking some questions about number one, why did the Quabbin Reservoir have to exist in the first place, right? Because the water that was going to be settled there to be used was being used by the very wealthy people, Freemasons, the Illuminati, that run the state of Massachusetts for one, for sure. They were all in upper Boston area, Cambridge and Boston, and that's where that water flows. Well, that's about 90 miles, 60 to 90 miles away from where they decided to put this reservoir. So one of the things I looked into was, why did they put it so far away? Because now you have to pump it there. Now you have to pump it all the way there. It seems kind of strange, right? I never thought of what I'm thinking of now. I never really thought of this before until the Tartarian shit came up. But what I was thinking about was the reality that when I was at the top of that mountain asking these questions, there was these plaques there was these plaques all over the place explaining the towns, talking a little bit about the people that were in these towns that were all over. Now, all these 8 towns, I believe it was total, that they took out, these towns were not that old at the time they did this. 50, 60 years old, not even 100, under 100 years old. Total cities, total towns, already established. So you look at these plaques that are everywhere, and they have photographs from the time before they tore down all these villages and homes, okay? All right. So as I was looking, I started noticing something. I noticed that in the photographs where these homes were still standing at the time the photographs were taking, that there was one tree here, one tree way over there, and I look up, and in a field of millions upon millions of trees that were there today, I can still see that one tree that existed 180, 150, 180 years earlier, right? It would have been 220 years earlier, right? So more than 200 years earlier, you see these 2 trees that were there at that time. And it started raising my suspicions, and I go over to the next plaque, and I'm looking at the next plaque and the next plaque, and I'm keep asking, there's people around me, because they're also looking at the plaques. And I said, isn't it strange that 200 and something years ago, before we had bulldozers, before we had any way of getting rid of all the trees, in a time when we were told we came to this country and it was all forest and we stole the land from the Indians and killed off the native Indians, is the story we told ourselves. Isn't it a little strange, I would ask the people next to me as they twirled their finger around my head, around their head, and pulled their children away from me because they didn't want to hear what I was questioning. This is very strange to me, I said. Where the fuck are all the trees in these pictures? Because if people moved here over 200 years ago, and they moved here and settled here, you can see in these pictures where they planted trees. For example, if you went and looked at the plaque where the schoolhouse was, you see a row of pine trees that were planted for shade going back to the side of the schoolhouse, and you can see a couple maples that they planted in the back for shade. They were purposely planted. They were in a row. You could see the human influence in the design of the way they were planted. They were not random grows like the way that we've seen them today. People did not wonder. I started going around. I made a daily, weekly thing of this. This went on for over a year that I researched this. I went town to town. I printed up. And the videos are still on my channel. I know I still got those videos up. I went town to town seeking out all of the trees that were old enough to be in these lithographs and photographs from the 1700s and 1800s. There were lithographs going all the way back to 1781. So when you take the 1781 lithographs, and they were good. They were good at doing these lithographs. They didn't miss much, okay? So in these lithographs, I started printing them up and going around town to town. I must have done 20 fucking towns. I'll pull up the videos and I'll do it. But for example, Becket, Massachusetts is a fucking tree town today. But in 1781, there were no fucking trees in fucking Becket. No trees. All over the mountains, bare, okay? Mount Tom, Massachusetts. Mount Tom in Holyoke, Massachusetts, Northampton, Massachusetts, it's East Hampton, Massachusetts, borders all this Mount Tom Reservoir area. Another fucking reservoir, okay? Built in the mountains. Protected land that we're not even legally allowed to investigate. You cannot dig there. You cannot take samples from there. You're not allowed to take a rock or a stone under penalty of jail time if you even take something from these so-called private, public, protected fucking lands, right? Well, as I was putting everything together back then, I came to an obvious conclusion, evidence, not a wonder, not a guess anymore. There were no trees when we came here. The trees were all gone. We did not come in to take over forests that we were told about throughout the Americas. This is throughout all the Americas. The same way that dude, Nick Research, and others were showing us about the mud floods. When they were showing us the mud floods all over the European areas, landscapes, and throughout Germany and Russia and all over the fucking place, right? As they dug up their buildings and realized there were basement floors that were at one time first and second floors to buildings. They were the first and second floors to buildings were now underground, 2 to sometimes more floors deep. And they claim that those were always meant to be basements. Well, why the windows frames? Why are the window frames concreted in with bricks from the inside? This makes no fucking sense. It looks more like we had a mud flood and you dug out those fucking basements, those basement floors, and just bricked up what used to be these windows they used to see to the outside. That's how deep these mud floods had gotten over the time, right? We don't even know how many mud floods before we even got a taste of reality. The same thing that's happening now with the Tartarian timelines being exposed to us. We don't know how much of it is real, but there's reality there to be seen. You cannot go down the rabbit holes and be afraid of what you're going to find. You cannot. Because there's these, what I'm going to now start calling conspiracy deniers. They deny conspiracies by using terms like conspiracy theorists, and they will try to label you a conspiracy theorist for seeking out truth and reality. It's part of their game plan. It's all the duality bullshit. The way that they still today get on the news and lie to you out of every fucking mouth that comes at you is got lies rolling off their tongues, and yet you have to accept that as truth and reality or else. All right. So I'm researching this tree thing. I'm finding it really incredible that as I going around town to town, towns that I grew up in, places that I've lived all my fucking life, and it never occurred to me. I thought the standard story was the real story, that we came here and it was the Native Indians that we were killing off. No. That's not, yeah, we did. I mean, we definitely did. But that wasn't the main, that wasn't the only, right? Because we also killed off the Tartarians, what was left of them, right? And then we, all over this earth, moved the children around to resettle and restart all of this slave system that we now today know of as working a 9 to 5, going to school, wasting your life's energy on satisfying the 13 families that have been doing this to us for over 10,000 to 12,000 years, okay? They've been there all along. The Luciferians, the Freemasons, what we now today know as the Catholics, the Illuminatis, the Christians, the Jews, the Islamic Muslims, all the other religions, the politics, the governments, they're all under the same fucking brand. Granted, the slaves on the lower tier levels don't know what it is I'm showing you. They don't know what it is I'm talking to you about. They might even have reason because they feel a security and a safety to continue lying to themselves and each other about everything I'm showing you. Their safety net is soon to be gone. Their safety net will not be there. They will come to the reality very shortly. Within a year, by 2026, they're all going to have to start facing that they too are also slaves. And the 13 families that ran this earth for all these years, enslaving the humans, they're all in for a shit world of a fucking reality because it's all coming down on us now. So they're no longer going to be the business owners, the small mom and pop shops. They're no longer going to be the farm owners. They're no longer going to be the factory owners. That's all done. All the money went to the top now. All of the power went to the top. It's all gone back up now. The perception that the slaves are actually any value to these people is now all gone. These people meaning the 13 families at the top. So anybody that's going to continue going along with all this fucking nonsense and believing in all these lies, pretending to believe in all of these lies, you're all fucked. Just like us, you're all fucked too, okay? So get over yourself if you think that you're a police officer or a doctor or a FBI agent or a politician or a governor or a senator. Nah, you don't. You still only got a tiny little fraction of reality, and in that little bit of reality that you're offered, you deny it. You'll tell yourself, no, this guy's fucking nuts. I don't see no feline, canine, rodent, ape, human, and beast. No, I got an imagination. I can see the elephant and I can see the giraffe, and I can see the whale and the shark. And no, you don't. You're a fucking liar. All right. So back under my tree research 10 years ago, I realized the trees were not here. Something happened. I started looking into, at that time, that's how I came upon Nick Research. I needed answers to where the fuck are all the trees? Where were all the trees a couple hundred years ago when we're told that the entire earth was littered with fucking trees, minus the desert? And even them are lies, because they told us that the deserts were at one time aligned with fucking trees, and there were trees everywhere, and it wasn't a desert at one time. You know what I mean? I mean, there's such liars. We are such fucking liars to ourselves. A lot of damage with the lies. All right. On with the story. So I started talking to everybody around me about this. My neighbors, my friends, some of you that might even be still listening to me now, all these years later, if you're still on my channel, or I think your family members actually are, you would see me, and I'd see you out on walks. I got one of you in my memory right now, walking your dog, and you walked by me, and you asked me what I was doing. I remember you probably didn't. I probably just volunteered it. Hey, how's it going? You probably made the mistake of saying. And I went into a schmeal about the 5 trees that were right on the canal, right in front of us when you were walking the dog that day. And I was showing you these 5 trees that were 250 years old, and pointing out to you that all these other millions of trees that we see all around us were not there. I showed you the picture. It was a lithograph actually. And I showed you the lithograph, and I said, look, these are the oldest trees around. We can go down to St. Mary's Church. I'll show you the 400-year-old tree that's in front of St. Mary's Church. Then we can find these line of trees here, 250. We can go down the hill down here, and I'll show you 3 more that were 250. You were rolling your eyes at me as if you were trying to be as nice as possible. You wanted to get away, just like everybody else. So you're not indifferent, so I'm not picking on you. I'm just pointing this out. This is how everybody is. So as you rolled your eyes to yourself and thought to yourself, he's fucking nuts. Who cares if there was some trees are 250 years old and the rest are all under 100 years old and blah, blah, blah. Who gives a fuck? Well, I give a fuck, because that proves that we were not surrounded by trees. That proves we did not come here and it was all forests, all right? All right. So nobody gave a fuck except me. All right, so now we flash forward 10 years. Now I'm onto the Tartarian timelines. And it's bringing back memories of when I was doing all those research about the Quabbin Reservoir and why they built the Quabbin Reservoir, where they did, when they did, and how they did, and that it's feeding a bunch of rich fuckers that are 100 miles away. So when I started looking at the map, I picked out many, many areas. 20, 30 areas that would have been a better area to build this fucking thing, where they would not have had to take anybody's land from them. They wouldn't have had to make people move out of their homes and move somewhere else. All the people that founded those towns, and I want to point out that they really did found those towns, okay? And I'm building up to something else that I just learned under the Tartarian timelines that's got me really fucking bugged. On one hand, I'm excited about it. On the other hand, I'm bothered that I did not think of it earlier, and that I did not research this years ago when I had a better chance, actually. You'll understand as I explain. All right, so I'm back at the Quabbin Reservoir. I'm asking these questions. I'm going back and forth from the town halls in the local area. I'm looking for information. Why did they not make this reservoir way over there or way over here or in this area? Nobody had any fucking reasoning. Again, they pretend that they think you're nuts. And maybe they really do think you're fucking nuts when you ask them these questions, because nobody else wants to know about these things. And then they're suspicious of why I want to know about these things. Why do you want to know where the trees were? What are you talking about? The trees were all here. Blah, blah, blah. No, bullshit. There were tree planting expeditions all over the earth. It's been going on for thousands of years. These trees were put here by humans. Humans overgrew this. There's reasonings for it. If you want to dampen the true creator's energy, if you want to dampen the false creator / creator's energy, if you want to dampen the natural electromagnetic nanocarbon current that is all around us, that us electrical creatures that have more appreciation for our bio selves than we do for our electrical selves, okay, if you're one of those fucking clowns, that's why we're fucked, is because no one will look. No one will look at reality. But I met a lot of those people over the years, and I'm just telling you another story about another person in the same fucking way. They're busy. They got to go to work. They got to go to school. They got shit going on. They got to get laid. They got to go pay for their car. They got to pay for their house. It's not their house. It's not their car. It don't belong to them, but they pretend that it does. It all belongs to the 13 fucking families at the very top. The ones that own all the corporations that we pay our life's energy to. Okay, so I'm back at the Quabbin Reservoir. I'm measuring curvature across a 30 mile distance of water. Okay, from one side to the other. I know my spots. I know where I can go to get 20 miles, 30 miles. And what I'm doing there is I'm proving to myself and anybody that was watching my videos at the time that there's no curvature, even over a 30-mile period, right? Over a 30-mile distance. There's no curvature. There is no 8 inches per mile square, because if there was, then this water would not hold here. It would fall out of its bowl, known as the Quabbin Reservoir today. Okay, so during this research of curvature that turned into now research of where the fuck happened to all the trees, turned into also research of many, many other things. One of them is this, that I'm going to go back and look into. How did those huge boulders that don't match any of the other rocks around that mountain, and you'll find these huge boulders that are unmovable by humans just 300-400 years ago. There's no humans with all the horses in the world. And if you even told me, yeah, if you got 100 horses and 200 men, you could drag that boulder to the top of that mountain and sit it there. Why? Why would you need to do that? This was not a fucking defense fort. So even if you could manage to do that, which I still don't think you could, you'd have to have a trail to get up there. You're not going to do it up the side of these rocky mountains that I was seeing in front of me. But again, you got to remember, these are the same people that are calling me as I call them out on these lies. They're the same people that are going along with all these other lies that are provably false, provably lies. At the time, chemtrails at that time, because I had not found the true creator at that time. I was just finding this out. I was just learning about the true creator at that time. So I didn't have a lot to go on. I didn't, this is right before that time. So maybe it was 11 years. Maybe it was about 11 years ago. All right. So as I'm measuring curvature across this reservoir, or lack thereof, I should say, one of the stories that came up, along with all these other stories that didn't make no sense. Okay, so you cleared out 8 towns. When I went and looked at these 8 towns that they threw out of this area for a long distance, there was questions that didn't make sense. Okay, why is nobody allowed? This was at a time even before automobiles. Most people were still horse and buggying at the beginning of the build of this town. So therefore, what kind of pollution are you talking about that you have to clear people out of their homes for 10, 20 miles around this fucking area that you're going to drop a reservoir into and build a reservoir in? The suspicion wasn't there about the Tartarian timelines at the time, so I never put 2 and 2 together. But there was another story that fascinated me, and I remember seeing this when I was a kid growing up. My father used to take me fishing on that Quabbin Reservoir. And when the water was low and the reservoir was low, you used to be able to see a church steeple in the water, that a steeple of a church that they never tore down. Very strange, especially now that we're looking at the Tartarian timelines throughout the Americas. Putting together that the Freemasons own an island on that reservoir. I think it's called Freemason Island, or Snake Island, I think they wanted to call it. They wanted to change the name of it. It's Freemason Island, and it's owned by the Freemasons. How is that possible? It's a federal public protected landscape. You're not supposed to be able to own anything on it. It's not like they can go boating out there and hang out on the island. That would be unlawful. It's illegal, at least for the rest of us it is. But if the Freemasons are allowed to own the island, no one else is able to own any property on any of those lands. That's very strange to me. So anyways, the church steeple. Now, I remember seeing it when I was a kid. And I was told that, no, you didn't see it when you were a kid, when I started bringing this up 11 years ago to people and saying, oh, yeah, I remember the church steeple. When my dad took me fishing, I could see it. And they said, no, you couldn't see it. And I said, no, I remember it. I remember it was not circular. It was square at the top. The square top, and then they had the metal pointy thing still coming out and everything out of the top and everything. Again, I was at that time more concerned with the sound resonances from the church bells. I was more concerned with the controlling sound resonances for us using sine waves from the churches, everybody going into the churches, and the sounds of them humming and praying and singing would go up through the fucking church. That's why the churches were shaped the way they were. That's why the churches had all those big organs and shit like that. That's what I was thinking in my mind. Now that I have the Tartarian time, oh my fucking God, my mind is blown. Now this makes so much more fucking sense to me. So much more sense. All right. So now we're being told that under the Tartarian timelines, you have to look a little deep, because those pianos and those organs and those churches and those buildings that those were turned into churches were not always churches. Those glass windows that were put in there were not there before. The openings were there because that's what those buildings were for. They were energy. They were collecting the energy from the ether and then passing it down to us to be used here as free energy for the system, for warmth, for coolness, for positive energy for the human population and all the other creatures who we shared this earth with. This is what the Tartarians were doing. They did have a control over us, and it seemed to be a positive control. maybe what I'm saying about the blocks, about the blocks not being big enough, maybe that's not necessarily true either. Maybe the Tartarian blocks were big enough for the size of the Tartarian. The only reason I have hesitation to that idea is because I don't have a full knowing of the giants. So if the giants were true and the giants were real, that would make sense to why 12,000 years ago, 10 to 12,000 years ago, that's why they didn't have any problem building with 700-ton stones, because it fit their build. It fit their body build to have doors that were 15, 20 feet high. But it didn't make sense to me as a kid growing up all my life, going into churches, entering churches with doors that were 15 to 20 feet high. Why? I would ask people, why? This doesn't make any sense. Same thing goes for the organs. The building of these churches that I'm about to go talk about, and the building of a lot, and I'm going to do some, I'm going to add some to the series. The small churches done with the small stones and the small rocks and anything that has come lately. Any Johnny-come-lately churches that were built look like shit. They look like garbage. They're not the same as the ones that were the buildings left from the Tartarians. The Tartarians left us buildings that were not meant for praying in. They had a totally different design to them. We changed it around under the Luciferian construction. We added the glass to the buildings, first of all, right? We took all the metal and the gold that was on the top of these buildings that were the best conductor of electricity, best collectors of the electricity from the ether, and travel it down through the building and the sine waves. And the windows were shaped the way they were shaped, and all these different shapes to send out different signals back through the ether. This makes perfect sense. This gives me understanding now to why the windows were as large, the doors were as large, why the shapes of them, all of that shit. So when you look at the ones that were built with the larger doors and windows, was because they were for the giants. The ones that were built with more modest, but also still built under the Tartarian timelines, maybe the Tartarians themselves built up off of what was left back by the 10,000 to 12,000 year ago humans that were roaming, okay? And then each time we had a different takedown, each time we had a different reset. Every time we had a reset, we'd come back up, and it was the Luciferians who were battling it out with the rest of us, just like they are today. The same way that I'm not able to get this message out to all of you and show you what you can all see for yourself and have anybody reasonably go look at what I'm showing you, right? Because it's not reasonable. This 200-300 subscribers and only 20-30 of you being real, that's not reasonable. That means everything that I'm showing you is being hidden. That means that I'm still not able to get this through to you. That's what they've been doing to us for so long that it's fucking ridiculous that we keep going along with it all. Perfect. I mean, come on, man. It's fucking unbelievable. Digital collection of electromagnetic nanocarbon from the area called this other tree over here. All right. I got to get a cigarette before I continue talking. I would have to say that the best thing since finding the true creator's work and finding the false creator / creator's work, I'll point out the triangular builders that are all around us. I'll point out that we can all see the timelines that are all around us and everything, all around the clouds, the moon, the trees, everything. You can see the timelines for ourselves. We don't need any wizards. We don't need a priest. You don't need anybody to lie to you anymore. And I would say probably the best thing about finding this is knowing that it's all around me anywhere that I go. In the old days when I was trying to prove conspiracies were actually real and the conspiracy theorists was the mocking of conspiracy realists. The word conspiracy theorist was put out there just for that reason. So what happens is when you're in that state of mind, which I was for many years, you have a hard time proving anything that you know in your heart to be true and real. I have to go to Rome to prove to you some things. I would have to go to Peru to go to those 700-ton stones to show you in person. And even then, still, it's being done through a camera. So though I can see it with my own eyes, if I was in Peru right now, the same way I am in front of this tree, with my own eyes, I can have the evidence. But for you, you're still seeing it through a fucking camera. So it's not really 100% evidence to you until you take your own camera, go start digitally collecting the EMNC for yourself. And one of the great things about finding the true creator's work is that we don't have to go to Peru. We don't have to go to, I don't even have to go to the next fucking state. I don't have to go to the next fucking town. I don't even have to go to the next goddamn neighborhood, okay? It's all around us. I can go to any rock I want. I can go to any tree I want. I can go to any set of clouds that I want to show you that we can all see the true creator's work for ourselves. We don't need any more lies. That's a big deal. Bigger deal than you think it is. It takes away your reasoning and excuses you might have in your mind to deny reality. You give yourself plausible deniability by doing that. As long as you have plausible deniability, you can say, oh, well, I can't get all the way to Italy to look at some rocks. And if I do make it to Jerusalem, and I go over to Jerusalem to see these stones and these rocks, I'm going to touch my hand on the rocks and pray. I'm not going to see the rocks for what they are. I'm not going to see it for reality. So we don't want to know truth and reality. That's why we're part of the problem. The zombie slaves are a big part of the fucking problem. They refuse to wake up. And that's why every time we have one of these resets, we all get fucked on these resets. All right. So I'm going to look further into that church that's under the water. Supposedly the steeple has fallen off over the years, people have told me. The water has gotten deeper and the steeple is no longer there. Some people have rumored over the years that they did allow divers to go in there and remove some things and take some pictures. Supposedly there is some photographs online of the divers taking pictures too of things. So I'll look into that, because the reason why I say that this is all coming to be more and more important, and then a lot of things that I had a hard time proving without using the true creator's work, because this is the easiest way for me to prove anything, is doing exactly what I'm doing right now. This is the easiest way for me to prove to anybody, and the true creators all around us, the false creator / creator that built this system, this biosystem, is all around us. We have the evidence of it. But that goes too far over people's head. They're not ready. They need a slow journey of 30, 40 years. And we don't have 30, 40 fucking years left to play games. It's all over. We're done. We're cooked. The deception started, minimum, our deception in the New World Order started in 1776. According to now the new books that we're going to be looking at, which the new books could, again, also be bullshit stories and falsities mixed in with truth and reality. What if the Tartarians were never called Tartarians? That's why I said we should make up our own name for them and start using it and make that the accepted language. Those maps that say Tartarian, we can write right over them with our own lies. We can lie right over them and say, oh, no, we're going to call them the Barbarius or whatever the fuck name you want to make up. All right? So I'm going to look into the church thing, the church steeple that's under the Quabbin Reservoir and other builds. But it seems like there's more of a story there than anybody would want to know. I was talking about the boulders on top of these mountains. So the mountains are all slate rock. They're slate rock mountains that have shifted, and they've over thousands of years have shifted and moved around. There was no reason for pilgrims to bring these huge fucking boulders up to the top of these mountains and drop them. They don't belong there. They don't even belong there. There's no other stones that are like that anywhere around on the mountain. Now, I did videos on them. I will probably make it my way out there again sometime soon, and I'll do all the same shit again because it'll be so easy for me. A quick bike ride up a trail here, show you this, show you that. I'll show you the buildings that they were building seemed reasonable for people of our era or of that era to be building. Then, amongst all that, you have a hidden system. A hidden underground system that could very well be right underneath what they built as all those 8 towns that are now protected land. The same way they did this with all the other Tartarian hotspots. They were buried with the mud floods. These mud floods were earth-wide. You know how easy it is? Now, all those years ago, according to the Tartarian timelines, it was the volcano that put us into 18 months only of darkness was enough to cause these problems. And then plus you add all of the high energy impacts that were done all over the earth by the system that we still today control, but deny that we control it. We still today use it to put out hurricanes, tear up Florida, tear up California. We'll blame the wildfires that are not wildfires on a bird or a squirrel and say that, or a human for that matter, and say, oh, that's how the fire started, and this is how it got so bad, and it's the governor's fault for not cleaning up the wood, and blah, blah, blah. Bullshit. That was all purposely done. They needed to put the fucking carbons back up in the atmosphere for whatever project they had going on. That's why you'll notice that every time there's a big fire somewhere, doesn't matter what it is, chemical fire, it could be they burn up, they want a certain amount of aluminum, strontium, barium, and lithium oxide carbons in the atmosphere over Ohio, for example. So let's say you want all that in a big cloud over Ohio. What better way to do that than to dump a train full of these chemicals over on the railroad tracks in Ohio, and then for no reasonable reason, go ahead and blow up the other 2 or 3 trains that are also carrying these chemicals and blow them up too, because they might be dangerous for us to not blow them up. So you blow them up, poison a whole entire community. That's one reason to be doing that, was to clear out that entire area, because everybody in the next 50 years will be dead. Even the children will be sick and dying from all the fucking chemicals they've been inhaling. They're all poor neighborhoods. It's not like there's the wealthy people from Boston and the Freemasons and that they're not over there, right? And the other reason to do that would have been for one of their weather events. That's why you'll notice when they burn up fucking one area, they use that same heavy metals and minerals to control another weather event in another area. Whether it's lightning strikes and to start a fire somewhere else, or whether it's tornadoes, hurricanes, or whatever. Oh, it's tornado season. We gotta, move the system around, and they do. And then they put out weather reports, and then I, over the last 30 years, have had to argue with fucking weathermen, people that are into weather and went to school and educated on weather events, and I got to argue with them, me, Mr. Nobody, not uneducated, because I can see what everybody can see, but no, nobody wants to accept what we can see with our own eyes. No, we want the lies. We want the bullshit stories. It's fucking stupid. Not enough light. Not enough light on that one. It's fucking ridiculous. We're insane. We're really fucking insane. Human beings are nuts. That we go along with such fucking nonsense all the time. Okay, another tree as I go on. I don't know what the fuck the cops are doing here. Alright, let me continue on. It's probably gonna, I don't know what they're doing. They're driving around in the parking lot with their lights on. Alright, so I'll go investigate the churches, and then I'll go and look at, and see if I can bring you guys a little bit of some of that. The trees are the other thing. But I wanted to stay on this topic a little bit more about what we're doing to ourselves today after this next reset. So the next reset that's going to happen right now, it wasn't due to happen until 2030. So they tell us. They tell us that the reset's 2030. They tell us this. They told us in Agenda 21 it was going to start in 2021. But now, through the Tartarian timeline, we're now understanding that it was actually started in 1776. 1776 was the beginning of this new world order. 1776 was the end of the mud floods, right? Was the end of that era and the start of a new. And then United Nations is claiming to us, which are big fucking liars, can't believe nothing they say. Nothing, absolutely nothing that they say. They're part of the Freemason Lodge bullshit, Illuminati garbage. All right, so having these conversations with the younger generations, because I do worry about them. Because when you look at what they did under the last reset, the last big reset, because there have been a lot of little resets as well. Financial resets, political resets, judicial resets. There have been a lot of these little resets throughout history of our new timeline. But that last big mud flood that we're talking about right before 1776, sometime in a few hundred years before that, what bothers me about it is that when you look at the orphan trains and you look at how the parents were all killed off, like I said, anybody that knew the reality of the system was going to have to be killed off. Same way that today we get to live, us conspiracy theorists get to live, because nobody will go look at what we're showing you. None of the zombie slaves will wake up. So therefore, they don't have to worry about us. They don't have to worry. They can wait for us to time out. Yeah, they can give us diabetes and cancer and other things to generate revenue to the system and shorten our lifespan and all that shit and all that. That's why the Tartarians had a longer lifespan than us. But it still was not as long of a lifespan as it was 10,000 years ago, because 10 to 12,000 years ago, when black humans were the leaders of the earth, then we were living to 300 to 700 years old or somewhere in that range. Then under the Tartarians, they were living to 100, 150 years old, healthy, young looking still. And then their energy would run out around 150, 170, somewhere in there on average. Right, so the time spans, we're told today, oh no, in the 1920s and in the 1800s, people were only living to 20s, 30 years old was the average lifespan. Liars. They're fucking liars. Not without influence from the Freemasons. Not without influence from the Illuminati. Not without influence from our governments. That's the reason why the average lifespan, if true, was only 20 to 30 years old, right? Because they were putting us what they were calling civil wars. They were not fucking civil wars. There were excuses to hide the Tartarian timeline. So we'd go and blow everything up that was built by the Tartarians and then dug out the rubble and claim that we built the shit. Yeah, we built it. No, you didn't fucking build anything. You cleaned it. You cleaned everything and then claimed it as your own. Oh, well, this is the new state capital for this country and this town and this is the new capital of Washington. This is the new pillars that we can't even dream about fucking building or putting in place today, but yet they're claiming that we did this in the 1600s, 1700s, 1800s. Fuck you. Fucking liars, man. And it doesn't match any of their other bullshit stories of evolution and, oh yeah, we were all rocks and sticks and stones. And, oh shit, we were, huh? So we were all sticks when there were no sticks because there were no fucking trees at the time you're claiming that there were trees. We were much more electrical. We were not as bio, and humans had not fucked everything up to the point of trees every fucking 3 feet throughout everywhere. We did that. We did that throughout the 1800s, 1900s, by the way. 1800s, more or less. But then you had some major tree planting happening in the 1900s as well. So in the early 1900s, what you had was the start of government tree planting things. That's where you get the story of Johnny Appleseed. But really what they were doing was flying machines that they were inventing in the 1900s called airplanes. Now, airplanes are garbage compared to the Tartarian flying machines because the Tartarian machines that they were using on the ground and in the air was free energy. They moved around on free energy. No one was being charged to go across the earth to the other side of the earth. If they wanted to go, they could certainly go. There was no restrictions. They were not keeping us bound inside these borders. That's why, again, I say don't trust the maps. The maps were written by humans. I know we want to look at them because we're going to find some truth and reality in them, but keep in mind that everything has been based on a lie. Anything ever spoken or written out of a human's mouth, off a human tongue, off the ink of a human pen has all been a lie. So keep that in mind when you're looking at those maps, okay? The same way you got to keep in your mind when you're watching videos that everything's a fucking lie. All right, so I'm talking to the younger generations now about the Tartarian timeline. But what's the big deal, they say? Who cares? It was an old timeline. It's theoretical old timeline. What's the big deal? It was just a certain people that were living under that name, and that was the name of the territory that they lived under. So what? What's the big deal about it? And then I'm saying to myself, oh, fuck, man. Because the kids don't pay attention to anything that I've been showing them over the last 30 years, 10 years, at least now on finding the true creator. There's nothing bigger than what it is I'm showing you all. There's nothing fucking bigger ever in your lives will ever come along than what I'm showing you simply right here in a fucking tree, in the clouds, in the moon. You can simply just go see it all for yourselves. But you won't. And you won't. And you won't pass it on. And you won't. So here's the thing with the kids, and I'll try to explain it to the camera the same way I did my own kids. Okay, what bothers me about this is that we're about to go through another reset. And this reset coming up, they don't need humans anymore. So when we talk about the Georgia Guidestones and another theoretical bullshit story of the Georgia Guidestones, some people know about it, most people don't. The people that do know about it were told that it was a conspiracy bullshit and that it wasn't even true or real. They blew up the Georgia Guidestones, the same people who built it. So don't think that it was some conspiracy from somebody else who didn't want it there, because we really don't know that it even was real. Nobody has ever walked up to it with a camera and said, here's the Georgia Guidestones, I'm visiting the Georgia Guides. That never happened. All we have is photographs of it. We don't know if the people that are in those pictures were CGI'd into those pictures. We don't know if the monument itself of the Georgia Guidestones was even real. It could have been total CGI picture, frame by frame, put together and made into a video. We don't know. But what they claim was written on that rock is very telling. Caused fear amongst the slaves that by 2030 we only want 500 million humans left on the earth. The earth, they claimed in the Georgia Guidestones, supposedly, according to most people that were interested in even knowing about it, that the 13 families that have been running things for thousands of years, they were in charge of that. The structure of it, the building of it, and the bullshit story that's all that came afterward. That could have been a tiny little model built on somebody's desk. We don't know. That's how fucked up this all is, all right? So when I'm telling the kids and bringing up the Georgia Guidestones, when I'm telling them why they should be worried about the mud floods and why they should worry about the next reset, not worry about it, but have knowledge of it. And don't be in denial of it, because it's going to come into play when you're pretending to believe in all these lies that your parents are now telling you, that your grandparents before told them, and the great-grandparents before them all told them. Believe in the lies. Go along with the lies. Have faith, they told them. Have faith in the God we told you about in your Bibles. Have faith in your family and in your friends and in your teachers and the people around you, who in your bosses, right, that were that were in charge of the places you were going to work. Have faith in all these things. Not a knowing. Don't know anything. Don't know shit. That's bad luck for you. Because if you know something, they will take you out. Then you go to a penitentiary. Then you go away. They'll say that you're fucking nuts because you know things. Okay. So during the last reset, we know that they used a lot of direct energy weaponry to cause the mud floods. Today, all these years later, we also know, anybody that has open eyes knows that all of these tornadoes and hurricanes that are taking out Florida, California wildfires, Tornado Alley, Hawaii fire, all these fires that were done with direct energy weaponry, not done by natural a light and a match and some wood burning and other things that are flammable burning. That's not what these fires were about, obviously. They burned the wrong things if that was the case. They disintegrated metal before they disintegrate wood. That doesn't make sense in a natural fire. But a very small portion of the 7.8 billion zombie slaves even have an appreciation for this. The earthquakes that happen all over Europe and Asia, and volcanic eruptions from all over the earth, including right here in the United States, that we're all just waiting for. All controllable by us, the human population. Not natural, not God, not Mother Nature, no, by humans. The same way that we always have for thousands of years. You are all just in denial of it. You think that these combustion engines that you're driving around in your car, or your furnace or your boiler with a forced hot air system is the way to go. Or your let's even get more, what they tell you is modern technology would be solar panels that are soaking up the sun's energy. That's still not the same energy that the Tartarians were always using. The sun's energy was different. The sun's energy, we think, is coming from the sun, but it's not. The energy connects us to the sun, the same way that the moon's energy is separate from the sun. But yet we're all told and believe, full-heartedly pretend to believe, that light coming off the moon when it lights up the earth, we're told is a reflection from the sunlight. And you all fucking pretend to believe stupid shit like that? Makes no fucking sense. Go out on a full moon, look around you, stand somewhere where there's no human light down on the ground from ground light, and think about what you're looking at. The whole entire system is all lit up from this moon, from a reflection. What is the moon? A big ball of fucking mirrors? Is that what you're claiming? No, none of this makes any sense. It's all lies that we pretend to believe, because the lies are so fucking stupid that no reasonable human being with real thought, I don't care how many years of education you have, if you have any real thought, then all of these lies can be torn down in a second. And they should have been. They should have never even been accepted. In 1969, when they told you about the moon landing, your grandparents and your parents that were around for that should have laughed at it and said, Mom, Dad, are you fucking insane? That never fucking happened. There's too many things wrong with this for me to sit here and explain to you. Anybody, even an uneducated fucking person with no education at all, could have told you, oh, well, I know that from this book that I read. That's not really an education. I got the book from the library because I'm interested in astrology, because at that time, that's what they called it, astrology, which was also all lies. All right. So, I'm saying to the kids, it's important for you guys more so, because yourselves, still being young, in your late teens, early 20s, are going to not be able to have children for many, many reasons already. But if you did decide to have children now or anytime in the near future, it's going to be very hard, because you have to either be a good fucking slave, and even the good slaves that are obedient slaves will also be taken out on this reset, because they don't have any need for you anymore. After the last reset of 1776, they had a need for good adult slaves. That was to convince and destroy your children. Not only your own children, not only your own flesh and blood, but also other children that were coming in on the orphan trains. They were also going to be used as your slaves. They were going to be used in the factories that were going to be already set up all over the country. Somehow, these huge factories that were, now we know, were left over by the Tartarian floods. And we dug them out, cleaned the buildings, and turned them into what we called factories for our next setup, which was the Industrial Revolution. All right, so I got shit going on while I'm talking, so hold on a minute. All right, I think I'm just gonna set up at this tree here for now, for a minute. There we go. All right, same thing. Digital collection of electromagnetic nanocarbon from that batch of trees over there. Feline, canine, rodent, ape, human, and beast, faces only, from the veil to the ground. Just give me a second and I'll finish my stupid stories that nobody's going to be interested in anyway, but... all right. I'll walk up a little closer to it. So I can back it off a little. There we go. I fucking love it. I love it. I know it's not... I don't know. And let me continue on with my story before I complain about how everybody ignores everything I fucking show you. Alright, so I'm saying to the kids, I'm like, this next timeline is not going to be the same this next reset, because they now have the AI set up. What they've been doing all of these years is putting together a very crappy, shitty fucking version of the false creator / creator's work. When the false creator / creator built this bio realm, remember what I keep saying about division. If there's a bio realm, then there's a synthetic realm. If there's a bio species, then there's a synthetic species, because there is a positive, negative of every fucking thing that the false creator / creator does. The true creator is definitely the responsible party for absolutely everything, from the rocks, which are not a biospecies, which are not a synthetic species, but they're rocks. They're, right? So it's rocks, dirt, pebbles, mountains, you name it, right? So even after the mud floods, they wrote songs about it. They talk about it in their Freemasonry fucking bullshit stories. They talk about it underhandedly so that nobody understands that when they see it with their own eyes, they have confusion about what they're seeing with their own eyes. They'll doubt themselves, what they can see with their own eyes, what they can hear with their own ears. They will doubt it based on all of these lies that they fill themselves up with all these years. And that's what the AI is. A synthetic version, computers, plastics, 0 and 1 as the programming mode. There are no zeros in reality. Not in our system, the true creator system, or the false creator / creator system. They're an invented illusion. Zeros are so bad for the human population, you don't get it. You just don't fucking get it. You won't get it because none of you are waking up. No one is waking up. You're refusing to wake up. You'll wake up to more fucking lies and more lies, and you'll be told that, oh, those are conspiracy theories. And, oh, okay, now I can relax and go back to the lies again, now that I know that it was just a conspiracy theory. It's fucking ridiculous. So here's the thing about the next reset. Because they have the synthetic version, they want to download our souls from the biosystem into a synthetic system. Way shittier garbage shit compared to the true creator's work, compared to the false creator / creator's work. This system sucks. The electronics of it, the programming of it. Think of all the energy that it's going to be eating up. These databases that they're setting up all over the fucking earth right now. Right now. They're already fucking done with many of them. Are you fucking people insane? Are you fucking all insane? These data centers that are being set up state to state throughout the country, throughout every country across this fucking earth, are these huge data centers being set up. Why? You know how much energy they use? hundreds of times more energy than the millions of humans that are all around them. But yet you're being right now in your electric bill, right now, today, already started several years ago. You're getting charged for data centers that are being built. You're being charged in your electric bills, your heating and oil bills, all of those. And it says it right on your fucking bill that that's what this is. They're claiming that this is to pay for the electricity, and some of it actually is this, paying for the electricity of the poor people who are around you. But in reality, at the same time, they're telling you, oh, you gotta shut off your air conditioners, not use your electric heaters, and shut everything fucking down real low on the human scale, because we have these data centers that are gonna be using all of the energy that we're supplying. So not only do we have to build nuclear power plants to power all of these, because we're certainly not stupid enough to use oil the way that you guys all are to create energy, because we, the zombie slaves, went along with that fucking stupid idea for how many years now? How many years we've been going along with that bullshit? Dinosaurs once died and left fossils way under the fucking ground, and they turned into oil, biodegradable oils that we use in our automobiles and in our airplanes and on our trains and blah, blah, blah. You're so full of fucking shit. You're so full of shit to believe that shit. Number one, dinosaurs were not real. That was another fucking psyop that you all bought into. The same way you bought into the story of evolution, when you can prove to yourself that evolution never happened that way. It didn't exist. It didn't go nothing like that, like they told us it did. But yet everybody around me, thousands of people in the school behind me, will all argue with me and tell me that I'm the fucking nutty one. All right. So the AI is going to be soaking up all of your water, because all of these data centers, to keep track of all the slaves that they're going to allow to live, they're going to allow a certain amount of slaves to live through here, because they need somebody to run the computer systems. They need somebody to run the plants that are still going to be. So instead of having 500 workers in a plant, you only need 2 or 3. You only need 2 or 3 people to run let's say, a stationary plant. If you were still going to have paper in the system, they might still have a need for paper. There'll be toilet paper, still a pretty big fucking item. Paper towels seem to be a pretty big item. So depending on how poor we get, there will be plants to still make these things. But humans will not be sewing them. Machines will be doing them. The same way that the machines, even back when I was a kid, should have been fucking doing a lot of the jobs that slaves were doing. And when I used to go into these plants to work when I was just a kid, 16, 17, 18, 19, into my 20s, I had different times in my life where my family mostly and friends would convince me that in order to be a good citizen, I should get a job and go work for the corporations that will pay you money so that you can live a happy life, and you will someday retire, and you will dip into these benefits and these pensions, and you will live a good life. Bullshit. None of it ever happened. Never seen it right from the beginning. So I start going into these factories to work in them, and what I started noticing right away is, holy fuck, holy shit, are you kidding me? You idiots have been telling me since I was a little child that you go to work every day in this factory and made it sound like such a great thing. The people all around you are zombie slaves. They're staring into space, running machines that it's so unnecessary. We could just build a machine to make these fucking parts, and that would be something. Oh, don't you worry. Don't rush it, son. Don't rush it, they tell me. That's going to take your job away, so don't be trying to push for that. We want these jobs. You do? You want to fucking do this? You want to stand here for 8 to 12 hours a day and move maybe like 10 steps back and forth throughout your day? You don't get to see anything. You're not out, no sunlight. The fucking windows in the place are so far away from the machines you're working on and doing things. You don't get no sunlight for 12 hours a fucking day. And then you come home and you eat dinner with the family, and then you go back out to your second job so you can make ends meet, so we can have enough money to feed our family. Are you insane? And you're all telling me as I'm growing up that this is a good life? This is a good way to live, to be a fucking slave all the time? Get the fuck out of here. fucking assholes, man. So, as I'm talking to my kids now about this what seems pretty obvious to me now, and I'm saying to them, look at all the seniors that are now retiring. All the same people that back when I was a kid were telling me that I should be working in these fucking factories because someday you'd retire and you're going to make this much for an income. And even as dumb as I was, no mathematical skills, no reason for thought, no reason to read a fucking book or go to school or be educated, didn't want it, didn't need it, didn't care about it. And even I could see the fucking lie within lie within lie that these people were telling themselves. But I was outnumbered. I had thousands of them all around me in my life growing up. Millions by the time I did grow up, all telling me the same bullshit stories. Now, we start to watch them retire over the last 10, 15, 20 years. Now, there's two things that happen with this so-called retirement. Number one, the age of retirement keeps going up, and they make claims that we're living longer. Bullshit. We're not living fucking longer. What happened is the medical industry came in and now has control over our lifespans. So if you want to call it a life and you want to consider that you're living when you have to live with knowing that you have cancer for 20, 30 years, the last final 20, 30 years of your life, you find out that you have to go in for surgery after surgery so you can be benefit to our medical industry, or you want to talk about the food industry, the farming industry that was set up in this country to make everybody think, along with the governments, that we had to eat 3 meals a day in order to be healthy. All lies. We're electrical species. We didn't even need 1 meal a fucking day. All right? That's not what we needed. The heavy metals and minerals that our bodies did needed, we were denied. We were given and poisoned by toxic shit that they put into the vaccinations from the time we were babies. They put shit into the air, dump it on our heads throughout the factories for many years under the Industrial Revolution, and they would toxify our bodies doing it that way. So they had control of the sound resonances through the churches and the bells. They had sound resonance control through the birds and the crickets and some of the other biospecies. They had control of the sound resonance from the human voices that were taught languages to use letters and words that were terrible for the human consciousness and subconsciousness, for that matter. We did so much damage to ourselves based on all fucking lies. We are lying motherfuckers, we are. Okay. So now everybody's retiring. I just got into a discussion the other day. I'll say hello because he'll know who I'm talking about when he hears this. I'm not picking on you. Maybe I am. But I have friends, a lot of friends and family over the years who always brag. They don't realize that they're bragging. They think that there's something great about working 40 to 60 hours a week real hard all your life, busting your ass. And as they attempt to brag to me about being a good zombie slave, no. So I have to give them, first I feel them out, just like I did with you. I felt you out a little bit. I'm not going to say your name because I do this to these people all the time, and they know where I'm going right when I start talking. So I'll say to them, well, it's kind of funny because seeing that you don't own the companies that you worked for and you never did, then that means all your travel expenses, including your car insurance, your gas that you put in your car maintenance, getting you back and forth to all these jobs not being right down the street from where you live, because that's been pretty much impossible now for the last 60 years at least. Nobody lives near where they work, and if they do, then that means their owner of their company most likely is including their rental in their salary, so therefore their salary goes down, and they look at it as a great thing, saying, oh, well, I get a free place to live. I get to live in a free housing. Yeah, well, your housing sucks. It's mold infested. It's got disease and sickness all in it, and it's terrible, and they treated you like shit all your fucking life. So you got no compensation for your own fucking vehicle to go back and forth. So that measly, what was your salary? How much did you make? Oh, I was making good money. I making $23 an hour back then, all them years ago. And yeah, bullshit. That was garbage money. Even for back then, $23 an hour was garbage money in the 70s and 80s. That was fucking shit. We thought that was good money. We claimed it was. But when you really think about it, after you take out your 3-month salary that they take for taxes, for income taxes, because you have to pay to have a job, the government wants their fucking share so they can go and destroy other parts of the earth, including yourselves. They need that money to destroy you from within. So therefore, you have no problem giving them this money to destroy you from within. But that's only 1/3. That's only 1/3. That's only 3 months every year of your energy that you gave for that portion of it. Now, the next thing comes also with your job that you have to work all this fucking time, miss out on raising your kids. Let the schools raise your children. Let the schools educate and acknowledge and give knowledge to your children. You don't want to do that. You want to go to fucking work and be a good slave. It's like your parents and your grandparents before you. Right. So now that they're all retiring, so he says to me, yeah, but worked all my life. Now, at least now that I'm retired, I'm 65 years old. I get to retire and I don't have to worry about anything. I got my money coming in from my retirement fund. That is so fucking sad. That is sad for anybody to say. So he's getting $1,200, $1,400 or whatever it is per month. I think he's $1,400, but I know some people that get $1,200. I know others that get $800, and I know others that get $1,800. Plus, they have 401k benefits and other pensions, so they may be even up to $2,600 to $2,800 a month, right? All bullshit, all garbage, all junk, garbage. So I say to him, I say to you, hey buddy, I say to you, no, but you're not thinking straight about that. If you're only making $1,400, I don't want to use the word only, but it is only $1,400 a month. I said, because he's living with his daughter and only pitching in for rent. So he throws her a couple $100s a month for rent. They're sharing the grocery expenses and they're sharing other things, just like a lot of families are doing, just like my own family is doing right now. So just like my father retired, and now he's on my sister's hands. It's not like he can retire and actually have a good retirement life. No, he's fucking poverty stricken. He cannot afford an apartment right now, right? Think about it. So I said to him, so $1,400 a month is what you are getting. You can't even afford a 1-bedroom apartment right now, because even 1-bedroom apartments in a rural area that we live in is going to be about anywhere from $1,200 to $1,500 a month, somewhere in that range. So if you're lucky enough to find something for $1,200 a month, you got nothing left. How are you going to pay your electric? How are you going to pay your cable, phone bill, internet, all that if you decide you can afford it? You can't, because you can't afford it. How are you going to afford to put the heat on in the winter and the air conditioner in the summer? You can't. They didn't leave you that. This was a fuck job. We all got fucked. And the only reason you're getting this fucked is because it's hard to say what's better. They don't want to take you out when you're a benefit to the medical industry, so they don't want you dead. They want you to be a benefit to the medical industry. That doesn't mean you have to have a lot of money yourself to be a benefit to the medical industry, because we'll give you this fake-ass bullshit insurance. Since you were so nice enough to be a good slave and eat all the poison food, breathe all the poison toxic air, and drink the toxic water for all these years, and be a good slave, so we're going to give it back to you by offering you the medical industry, which was also set up about the same time that the Tartarian system ended, the same time that we were just finished off with recovery from mud floods. Then we come into the 1800s when we dug out and cleaned up the mud floods. So I said to him, the same way I was talking to the kids. about the AI and what they're up against and why we all have to go away now and we're all going to be fucking killed off because they don't have any reason to have any more than 500 million on the earth. So if there really is 7.8 billion, which I have my doubts about already as it is, but if there really is 7.8 billion of us on the earth right now and they get us down to 500 million, you do realize what that means. That means we're in for another reset. The same reset that they told us about in the Georgia Guidestones and in the Bible and all the other books that they had written, when they told us about Revelations and they said that it was going to be God that was going to be doing it, or they're going to be space aliens that are going to be doing it. No, it's the same fucking 13 families that have been doing it for tens of thousands of years, and the same 13 families have these takedowns all the time. What chance does the human population have to recovering from what's about to happen now that the AI is going to be here to take over the job of the parent? No parents are going to be needed and required anymore in this new slave system because now they got their human version of the false creator / creator's work. The false creator / creator built a biosystem happy to invite all the feline, canine, rodent, and beast, and humans. That was the biosystem that the false creator / creator had built. The system could contain it, hold it, deal with it. Humans come along, fucked it all up, stole the false creator / creator's work, built a lot of other extra species that we would now begin eating. So we're going to create new creatures just so we could eat them to go against the false creator / creator's build. It goes against it because that we were never intended to eat other biospecies. We were electrical species. Even though he built the biosystem, that's what we call it today. Those are the words we have to use. But we were obviously electrical species. We didn't have to take nourishment in the way that we do today or that we have over the last 10,000 years changed it to, because it's all different now than the way that the false creator / creator had intended it. I don't see any anger by the false creator / creator for the humans stealing his work and doing all the damage that we've done. That has to be a human acknowledgement if we're going to do that. It can't be saying, oh, we dissed our God, or we let our God down by doing. No, because he doesn't give a fuck. He does not give a fuck that we did all this. The same way that the true creator doesn't care that the false creator / creator stole his work and built the biosystem. They don't give a fuck. They don't have emotions the way that we do. That's what a lot of our energy is based on, is our emotion. We are emotion creatures. That's where our electrical generation comes from. Happiness causes one type of energy. Sadness, fear, anxiety all cause different energies. We all know that. We all know that, not because we were taught it in school, but because we can experience it every fucking day. All these thousands of cars driving by me right now, the anxiety and the fear, just getting behind the wheel and going 70 to 100 miles an hour, that humans are not supposed to even be going that fast. Getting on an airplane and being thousands of miles up in the air when we're not supposed to even be that high up in the air. We go against natural builders. We go against the natural builders and what we were designed for. Purposely, to cause anxiety and stress and deny it the whole way, of course. No, we'll call it jet lag. We'll call it road rage. We'll call it all these other fucking names and put our lies behind all of the natural things that are all around us. These fucking guys, they try to keep a close eye on anybody that does anything. These fucking maintenance guys. All right, so the AI, garbage fucking technology. The solar panels, garbage fucking technology. combustion engine, garbage technology. We all think it's so great. We all pretend that it's better than the true creator's energy. Are you fucking kidding me? Come on, man. And to the point where you're even going to deny shit that you can see with your own eyes, like I'm showing to you right now, and you're still going to refuse to look at it and say, oh no, that's just a bunch of trees. Yeah, I see the fucking faces that you're talking about, but that's just me using my imagination. Oh my God, people, come on, man. Wake the fuck up, my fellow Tatarians. You've been duped. You've been fucking duped. And your families and your generations before you, they wanted to be duped. You should change that. You should say, fuck that, no more. We're not going to go along with these lies anymore. Because if you do, and you decide you want to just be a good, dumbed down fucking zombie slave and continue going along with this, and you're going to make it all the way through the next reset, not going to happen. The next reset, even if there are 500 million humans on the earth, is an exaggeration. I don't think it is, because they're already doing it with the feline, the canine, the rodent, the ape, the human, and the beast have all been fucking knocked down so badly now, and we claim that we're too many people. We claim that there are too many humans. No. They do this every reset. They claim this, make these fucking claims. And the reason for the reset is to get rid of anybody that sees reality. Anybody that sees the truth in reality, they need to reset. And they know for whatever reason. Now, one reason that's being claimed, and it might be true, I don't know, is the astrological things that are happening. But all those astrological things that are happening are based on astrology, which was all a lie, provably a lie. So, how can I count on that? Well, we can find some truth in it, because we can look for the truth that I know how I feel. I know what my subconscious tells me when I go to sleep at night. I know what my dreams are, and I know how this all works, and I know that I can use the true creator's energy to travel and look around and move around in this system, all on one timeline that goes back many timelines in the false okay. So we all have this ability. This is not magic, witchery, witchcraft. This is all abilities that we all have as the electrical species that we are. So the thing is that you guys, the younger generations, the children, and even the young adults, are all going into this blindly. They're all still filling up these college halls and filling up the dorm rooms and going to school, all fighting the traffic and bustling and hustling, pretending that times gone past are still somehow relevant to the times that are present. In other words, or another explanation of that, I got to stop saying in other words. I got a lot of catchphrases that I use that I don't like hearing myself say. So another way to look at that would be claiming that going to college is still worthwhile, right? When we all know that that's bullshit. College is all done, right? We all know that the education system from preschool all the way to your college years is all lies. All based on lies. The math, the history, the science, all fucking lies. And so that's useless and unnecessary. That's why they make it illegal now. The United Kingdom, you cannot even homeschool your children what you want to homeschool them anymore. The same way it is in the United States, but yet when the United Kingdom does it, it becomes a big news story in the United States. Big fucking deal. The United States has already been doing that for a long time. If you're going to homeschool your kid, they'll take your fucking kids away. You have to prove to them that you're going to teach them the lies. If you're not teaching them all the lies that our school curriculum offers to our zombie slave children, then you're fucked. They'll lock you up. They'll definitely take your kids away, and they'll try to reform you. And if you don't go back to being a good zombie slave and doing what they tell you, in other words, teaching all the lies to your children, then you're useless to them. They now have a system called the AI, which is total garbage, total shit. You can notice it, recognize it. You can recognize the CGI. How anybody falls for any of these hoaxes that are going on anywhere on this earth is beyond me. beyond me. You really are dumbed down zombie slaves if you believe any of the shit that comes out of any mainstream channel, site, news program, television, anything. It's all propaganda. So what's going to happen to the kids after this reset? There's going to only be 500 million children, not including the families, not including the 13 families at the top. The 13 families that have been controlling everything for thousands of years, they have thousands of themselves already spread out across this entire earth. All the colors, as far as I can tell, all the colors, they're there. So even the black humans that I'm explaining to you all, the black humans that have not had a chance to be the leaders on the world stage for 10 to 12,000 years, there are Freemason black humans. They call them Cabal. They call them the Cabal. They're not allowed to be part of the Freemasonry, but they are allowed to be part of the Cabal and part of the Illuminati. They can join those groups. They can join Elks clubs, and even though you don't see it very often, they are able to set up their own black communities separate from the Freemasons, but yet they still get to have the knowledge of the things that I'm showing you and telling you, if you make it up high enough in the ranks. And we know that some of them are high enough in the ranks, very few of them, but we know they exist, because otherwise Africa would not have gone along with all the slavemanship that has been happening to them for many thousands of years, tens of thousands of years. The continent that we know of Africa, all the black humans that come from that area of the earth, all the way to Egypt and actually Egypt is part of Africa, isn't it? So all those areas that black humans are born out of, they also have Freemasons running their system. If they didn't, they wouldn't have gone along with all that bullshit back in the 18 and 1900s. They wouldn't have gone along with that shit of, oh yeah, you want to buy some people? Yeah, we'll sell you all kinds of, we got slaves up to yin yang. Oh yeah, we'll send them right over on the boats. How many you want? You want 10,000 this month? All right, we'll send over 10,000, but don't expect 10,000 to be there when the boats arrive, because the way that we treat these fucking people, you'll be lucky if there's 3,000 still alive out of 10,000. That's okay, we said. That's all right. We're just going to destroy them when we get them here anyway. They're not going to have they're going to live a worse life than they did living in Africa. So don't worry about it. Send them on over. And they were all part of it. So when I'm talking about the black humans being the leaders on the world stage, they've never got to be leaders on the world stage. It does not mean there's no black Freemasons, that there's no black Illuminati. There are. They're the Cabal. So what happens to the children? What happens to the kids during this next reset? Parents are all being killed off big time as this is all going on. It's an internal war. It's a silent war. And it's a war amongst ourselves. So when we talk about a civil war, we always picture people shooting guns at each other and picking up swords even in other earlier civil wars, and other weapons of destruction that we used to kill each other with and all these things. Well, that might have been great, and that might have worked great for the zombie slaves in the past, but it's unnecessary nowadays, because nowadays we can kill them. Well, I guess we did kill them with famine at certain times, because we were told of plague, we were told of famine, we were told of diseases and shit like that were not true. The plague didn't take out. The same way they're going to do with the COVID-19 bullshit story, right? Because now it's already written in the history books. So the COVID comes out a COVID that's already existed for many, many years, but nobody paid any attention to it. It's on the back of every medicine bottle, cough medicine bottle that you can buy, and it says fights against COVIDs. All right, so we already knew about these pneumonias called COVIDs and these flus and viruses called COVIDs, and the name was already there. But yet all of a sudden in 2020, actually 2018, under Donald Trump, we start up with this, oh my God, it's going to be a pandemic. Oh my God, we got to get everybody. And then they made us do these terrible rituals that were devastating to our own selves, taking away oxygen from our own brains so we can't even think straight, sending our children to school with fucking oxygen pads on so that you could not breathe at school, making everybody keep away 6 feet from each other to make sure that we were really dumbed down enough to not share each other's energy with each other anymore. Didn't go and properly bury and dispose of our dead, killing off our mostly elderly and obese of society, killing them off with the respirators that we bought by the millions under Donald Trump, and put into effect only hundreds of thousands of them under false realities. I should just say falsities, because there was nothing reality based about them. So here it is. We did the same thing in our lifetime. So what's going to happen after the next reset? Or are they going to look back at that timeline and say the same way that we do about the plague? Because we were lied to about the plague, but nobody wants to admit that we were lied to about the plague. Now, no, the plague existed, and a lot of people died from it, and some people called it witchcraft, and they started killing their spouses and neighbors because they were reporting that. Does this sound familiar? They were reporting their neighbors for doing strange things and calling it witchcraft, so therefore they had to be killed, and they burned witches at the stake and burned warlocks and witches at the stake, these human zombie slaves. We did this, right? So they did it because they figured it was better to get rid of the virus and stuff, so they burned all the bodies and blah, blah, blah. That was all fucking bullshit, the same way that the COVID shit was bullshit. So when we knew in this time, but we denied it as it was happening. We denied it. Some people rose the question and said, wait a minute here, 0.001% of the population is dying from this terrible disease that you're calling a pandemic, but yet you're forcing everyone, 73% of the population is going out and getting a shot that you know nothing about, that's actually a gene manipulator, but you're going to call it a vaccination? Are you making any fucking sense yet? No. But yet they all still insisted on it. I was arguing and fighting with my own fucking family, who are all doctors and nurses, insisting that these ridiculous, stupid shit, I had no right in questioning because I was uneducated. Because I don't have a fucking medical degree, I can't decide how bad the masks are for us. And we needed those masks. Bullshit. You're liars, and that's why you're all going down now. Because the medical industry is also now has to come to an end. It's unnecessary for the slaves now. They don't need it anymore. This is the end of the time cycle. We're timing out. So on the reset, how many people are still going to be left when we start back up? And when they look back on history during this last 250 years, at the end of this life cycle, right before the mud floods, they're going to say the same thing. Oh, we had a pandemic. It was called COVID-19. And this is what happened with it. And so many people died. And we had to create this vaccination for it. And that's what saved everybody, when the opposite is actually true. More people are dying from the fucking bullshit that we stuck in our arm than died from the actual so-called virus. You know? But yet, that's what we did. That's what we're doing. We're still doing it. So we're making false history right in front of our own eyes. We are all partaking in it the same way that we ranked out the people of those other times, those other takedowns, those other resets that we had. And then we can change the timeline anytime we want, because the history will all be rewritten. So in the future time, after our now, whatever they're going to do, I don't believe mud floods are necessary. I think they can really pretty much leave most of it, get the human population down to 500 million, just like they're claiming they're going to do. They're already set up for it. 73% of the Americas, let alone the United States, but from Canada all the way through Brazil, you're looking at 73% supposedly all took that shot. So if that shot was the number of the beast, or the mark of the beast, or whatever you want to call it, because that's what they called it in past times, and you took it, and you gladly took it. Matter of fact, you took all the boosters and everything along with it to assure your fucking miserable fucking deaths. And then here we go. And then here we are. Now, here we are. So then when we're past all this time, and the grandchildren and the children that may be lucky enough to come along, I don't see how they will. They're going to have a very little use for a human population anymore. They'll need them for sex and to continue the 13 families at the top, which are now branched out, like I said, to hundreds of thousands spread out across the earth. So if they have 500 million, they still have enough to still continue their various bloodlines. So they don't really need the zombie slaves anymore, because the computers will control the machines. The machines will build them whatever it is they want. The zombie slaves, the 500 million zombie slaves that are still around, that they're still going to participate with, will eventually blend in to the 13 families, which is really what they did right from every other reset. So even when I talk about the 13 families at the top that have been controlling everything for thousands of years, that's where we all came from. That's where we all stem from. There's no other way around it. Because anybody else that we might have stemmed from is now gone, dead. Their genes are demolished. They don't exist anymore. They washed them off the face of the earth throughout all these tens of thousands of years. Which means that anybody still standing today, whether I want to call myself a Tartarian or not, my bloodline and my gene line, just like yours, has to come from the 13 families at the top. If we're going to, I'm sure there are other genes that existed at one time throughout history, but they're not here anymore to point the finger at. But the 13 families that have been controlling it all along, they're all still here. It's just that we don't get to be part of their family. They need a certain amount of zombie slaves to entertain them, have sex with them, whatever, all kinds of other forms of entertainment. It's not for knowledge, that's for sure. They don't need us for companionship they don't really need us at all, to be honest with you, anymore. They don't need us. The same way that they made us not need each other. Because now you go into the AI. So when you're flash forward into the future that you claim you can't see, flash forward into the future that you tell yourself you don't know nothing about and it's impossible to understand and see it, bullshit. Another fucking lie. You know damn well that our grandchildren and great-grandchildren, when they get to the other side of this next reset, are going to look back on it all and look at from their point of view. They're not going to have a husband or a wife. They're going to have an AI version of a husband or a wife. They may even have a hologram that they cannot connect with, because that's who they'll be having sex with. Right now, it's just pornography on a screen. Next, it'll be it already is, gone over to pornography in a simulated light formation. So therefore, it'll look real. It won't even be transparent anymore. But when you go to touch it, your hands will go right through it. You have no way. It has no energy. It's not giving any energy. It might even have a soul. It might even have a soul, because the soul is going to be downloaded onto a synthetic species. The same way I'm telling you the false creator / creator's original build was bio and synthetic. So it's going to be the same fucking thing. The synthetic species don't generate new species the way that humans do. They don't have a womb to carry offspring in. They don't have the right anatomy to do the same things that the biospecies does. There's another way to repopulate under the synthetic versions that we did, that we seen, worked with, shared the earth with at one time. They may be what's on the other side of this earth. They may be there, and that may be their side, and this is our side. They may have come over to our side to try helping to make us better humans at one time, or they could have been here to hurt us at times when we thought they might have wanted to help. I don't believe in that as much, because I am going to guess that we are emotional creatures and that's where we get our energy from. I don't see any evidence of that with the true creator's builders, the true creator, or the false creator / creator. None of them show me the emotions that biospecies have. So I have a hard time. I'd have to see or understand some evidence that our synthetic brothers and sisters that were put here on Earth the same time we were, created at the same time we were, they don't have all the same capabilities and abilities that we have, and same thing vice versa. They might have a better control of the energy than we do, being biospecies, but we as biospecies may be better at creating and producing energy rather than processing it. There's all kinds of possibilities of what may happen, or what may have happened, and what may happen again, because now humans stealing that energy, stealing that work of the false creator / creator, and putting it into effect in what we today call AI. Now, as we go forward, the next generations are not going to know about these past things because they're going to be lied to about them. So when they hear about the COVID pandemic that lasted 20, 30 years, we're only going to know it before we die. We'll only remember it for what it was. A bullshit story that human population put out in order to better control the zombie slaves. That's what it was. That's what we know it as. But yet we're going to pretend that it was real and it was based on reality and it was a terrible disease and everybody got everybody. And that's what took everybody out. And just like they told us with the other fake ass, lying ass pandemics, plagues, droughts. They tell us we had a drought. They tell us we had a flood, right? Oh, we had a flood. It was so mysterious. Good thing Moses built that fucking big ship to put all the creatures of the earth on. All lies. All provable to be lies. At the time they were claiming that was happening, all the creatures of the earth that we know of today, other than the feline, canine, rodent, ape, human, and beast, had not even been created yet. The human had not created them yet. So therefore, that's a bullshit story that's easy to prove. So your pig, your lobster, your crab, your bulls, your all the other fucking animals that you don't see in the trees right now that I'm showing you because they're not there. Because the true creator never saw them as feline, canine, rodent, ape, human, and beast. The true creator sees them as these images that I'm showing you. That's what he builds them as. You can see the timelines all around them in the trees, just the same way they were in the other trees that I was showing you. We got fucking burned. We burned ourselves. We keep getting burned. We're fucking idiots, man. We're geniuses. Geniuses to go along with all this all these years. all these thousands and thousands of years throughout each reset, not even having any influence on our own children. Because if we try to explain this shit, this is what divided the families back in the 1800s after those mud floods were over. So 1776, and they put out the orphan trains and all that shit was going on. Then you can easily see how that all went down. The parents didn't abandon their children. The parents were fucking killed off in a lot of different ways. The parents were Tartarian, and their children were taken from them to spread out throughout the earth under the New World Order. And that's what we did. And now we're at the end of another time cycle. So before this video ends, I'll just briefly mention that the time cycles that the Tartarian conspirators are putting out there right now, and I'm all for them, so don't get me wrong when I call you Tartarian conspirators. So when they were bringing everybody over on those trains and getting rid of the one parent or the other, it was because a parent could not go along with the lies. They knew too much. They were not about to go into this new world order that they were being told about when they seen their people dying all around them in every which way. Not by the standard war of being hit by tanks, guns, jet fighters. That wasn't the way. The same thing that I'm telling you, it is not the way today either. Those are all distractions. When they tell you they're going to war in Russia and Ukraine, that's a lie. Those are the distractions. What did they do with all the people of Ukraine and some parts of Russia? They moved them around. They put them on the orphan trains. We received them all over the earth, the people of Ukraine, because they had this fake bullshit fucking war, right? The cities of Tartaria that were from Russia, Mongolia, China, all the Asias, all the way through the Americas, all over Europe, they're all still there. The evidence of them is still buried under the earth, most of it. So therefore, those lies that they were telling us back then were the lies of the wars as well. We had a civil war. We all got lined up in the fields. We aimed guns at each other, fired. We didn't take cover behind a tree, which would make most sense, right? We didn't take cover behind, we didn't carry shields that would cover us from the bullets to try to, no. You're dumbed down motherfucking zombie slaves. You were told to line up in the field by hundreds and by the thousands, aim your guns at each other, reload, and then step back to the front line. After you take your shot, you fall back, the next person takes the step in line. 100 million fucking after another, they all died getting shot down by each other, shooting themselves, calling it the North against the South and East against the West, and all, country to country. This was happening all over the earth at that time. And you would think that these wars were the true wars, but they weren't. The real wars were being fought the same way they're fighting them today. Right here is the evidence for that. Right there. Right there at the chemtrails that are fucking above your heads every goddamn day. Because how were the mud floods created? The mud floods were created by the major volcanoes that were erupting and put us into a state of darkness for, according to some people, 18 months. According to others, they would call that the Dark Ages. So it might have been many, many years that we were in a total state of darkness, we were told. Well, that total state of darkness, meaning no sun, doesn't mean no light. Because the Tartarians knew how to get the energy from the atmosphere, and we had light all around us. The sun was really unnecessary. the same way that the sun is unnecessary even today. The sun is a connection. It's not the energy. It's a connection of the energy from the earth to the sun, from the earth to the moon, from the stationary stars. You got it. And then what happens is if you really want to know and you really want to go and look, you'll notice that the start of all these lies did not start after 9/11, right? They've always been going on, and they use their mathematical equations, and they use their dates and everything in order to enslave us with their wisdom, because they're also knowledgeable. And then all the corporations that are on this earth, across the entire earth, the corporations are owned, the governments are owned by the same 13 families. The 13 families at the very top, who are now going to be the only 13 families left after the next reset. So now we're looking at the clouds right now, because I'm about to explain how they took us down in past times. So in past times, some of the bigger resets were done with volcanoes. Well, this time they did not need the volcanoes, did they? Because I've been showing you that they've been dump sacking us with the chemtrails for 30 plus years. Before the chemtrails were here, we had the Industrial Revolution that they were using as a way to dump the heavy metals and minerals into the atmosphere that would later be used to dumb us down, to enslave us, to block out our sunlight, the energy that we get from the sun that I'm explaining to you is not actually from the sun, it's with the sun, but you're still breaking the connection with the cloud barrier, the cloud coverage. It's not just the rays that are coming down to connect to the earth, but it's the rays, energy waves going up to the sun. It's a connection. It's not a one-way thing. And we can see it all, but yet we denied it. And everybody that I've showed the trails to over the years and talked to about the trails, other than conspiratorial, psyop, Freemason sites that are allowed to talk about it openly without their channels getting shut down, they all... There you go. All of those channels that are like that are the reason why someone like myself doesn't get anybody watching my videos or my channel. There's psyops that are put out there. They set up, they start a new channel. You look at the date on the channel, and they don't even hide the fact that they have hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions, sometimes only tens of thousands, sometimes only thousands. But they, within a week or two of a new channel, and then look at what it is they're talking about. Nothing. They have no evidence of anything. They're not showing you anything that's of value. They're just on there with their own fucking face in front of the camera, which is something that you'll notice I rarely ever do, because for many reasons. These cameras are fucking soul stealers, is what they are. And that's literal. I mean, not literally. The cameras are soul stealers. They're stealing from your soul. So there's no choice that I can see other than to wake up. And no one's going to be able to wake up unless you have the visual evidence. You cannot wake up to more lies. If you keep going along with all the religious beliefs in order to get through this human takedown of the human population, then that means you've submitted. You've already submitted, because you're leaving your children's destination and destiny in the hands of the zombie slaves who are going to ignore reality your fellow zombie slaves because it's already so far gone. And you're going to be leaving your offspring and other people after you that come along just in the next few years while we're going through this. Just it's already here. I mean, 25, 26, this is it. They can't wait till 2030. Their goal was to start the takedown in 2030, but they can't wait. So nowadays they do it with the jets. They can block out the sun like they're doing right now today. They've chemtrailed for the last 3 days straight. 10 to 20,000 trails per day, each fucking day. And every day that these trails go out, the skies build up. They can trail and push all the, what we call clouds, to one area. So they can darken half the earth. They can darken some of the earth. They can darken most of the earth. They can make it dark like this so you cannot see your own shadow, because that's what they described in the Bible, in the book of Genesis, chapter 20 of Revelations, about all of this happening, about the skies going dark even during the day, to the point where you cannot even see your own shadow. So that describes to me kind of like it is even today. And they put the blame on that as years and years of darkness. And it might have been longer than 18 months. The biblical stories claim 18 months. It might have been much longer. They do that to us today. They do that to us right now today. We've had times, even in the last 10 years, I can think of times even under COVID, where there was this weird thing going. Remember, we had the deep fog all over the earth? It was earth-wide. It was all over the earth. We had this fog, this weird fucking fog, and it was for many months. This was going on for 2-3 months. Very few people questioned it. Most people live in a fog of all their own. They don't even need the actual fog to make them ignore reality. So therefore, when I was trying to talk to my kids and my family about this shit, they'll all just say you're fucking nuts. And they will not even look at it. They will not even, okay, so there's some, then you could look at how London lived in a fog for how many years? Like, you know what the weird thing about it is with London? Is London was not living in a fog in the 1500s, 1600s, all the way up until after the mud floods, right? Then, they still didn't have stories of living in a fucking fog all the time. Then all of a sudden, for some strange reason, it just became normalized that whenever you went to London, at least 5 out of 7 days a week, you were going to be walking around in a deep fog. For what reason? For what reason? The water's coming off of the oceans, the rivers and the lakes, the temperature. Nope, none of those made sense scientifically. There was no real explanation, and nobody even tried to explain it. The same way now, I'm looking at the fucking skies and the trails for the last 3-4 days, and look at the day that we have today. Look at how it is today. It's now, there's no sun coming through. You still get the energy, because it'd have to be much thicker than this in order to block the energy from the sun. And then you also still have other energy that's all around us that we use, but it's not going to be, it doesn't contain the same energy particles that our bodies would need to live properly, right? So it goes right along with breathing in these heavy metals and minerals when they drop them out of the trails. When they drop the trails out, certain ingredients are good for dropping all the way to the ground. That's why they're mixed with heavy metals and minerals that will drop in our atmosphere rather than rise. They don't want they have all different uses for these so-called trails. And they already knew all this technology long before jets were ever created. They knew all this. The evidence is in the same Bibles that I'm telling you that are all lies. The evidence for this shit is right there in those energies. I mean, in those witnesses to this, you know. And then you got you've got all these written lies that were written throughout our lives that were added to those lies. And we can see that they were lies by looking at the reality of it today and calling them out on it, right? We should be calling them out on all their fucking lies. Because we can see it. We can see it with our own eyes. 30 years of telling people, why are you not looking at the chemtrails? Why is there no conversations? You want to call them condensation trails? Fine. You want to call them ice crystals? Fine. Let's still give me a reasonable explanation for why there are tens of thousands of them being dumped on our heads every day, everywhere on this earth. This is not a United States thing. This is across the entire earth. Why is nobody else questioning it? Why are the other religions not questioning it? Why are the Muslims that get dump sacked not questioning it? If you remember when we went into Iraq after 9/11, they questioned it. We heard little tidbits of information here and there that when they saw the chemtrails going over their heads, jets dumping off miles and miles and hundreds of miles all around them, dumping these white streaks all over their heads. They thought they rightfully thought they were being damaged. They rightfully thought to themselves, wait a minute, we've never seen this kind of shit before. This has always been over Russia, the United States, Canada, Brazil. But this has never been over our heads in Iraq and Afghanistan. There's something going wrong around here, you know? And they let little stories about it leak, about average people asking those normal questions that anybody would ask. And then it all went away. It all disappeared. Nobody asked anymore. I guess all the people that were asking about it all died off. We killed millions of people in Iraq and Afghanistan, millions of them. Innocent people, didn't do anything fucking wrong. They did not fly planes into our buildings like we're claimed, but we needed a way to go bury more of the evidence of the Tartarians that Saddam Hussein was digging up over in Iraq, because that's what was happening at that time. Now, whether or not Saddam Hussein was a Freemason and involved with all the Freemason and Illuminati shit, definitely he was. So for someone like myself who has the knowledge and the ability to acknowledge reality, then I can tell you for certain, he never died. Saddam Hussein wasn't killed by us, and when they put his picture up, all looking all sad and everything, and then they killed him later. It wasn't about a war between President Bush Sr. They tried to kill him, and therefore now he's got to go to war and blah, blah, blah. Those are all lies. Those are distractions. What they were really there doing was burying the shit out of and destroying evidences that were left of the Tartarian system. That's how long it's taking them to get rid of all of the evidence. Some of it they cannot even totally get rid of. They buried it. That's how unable they were to actually destroy it, was to hide it. It was easier to hide it than it was to destroy it. All right. All right, I got lots and lots and lots to talk about, but this camera's going to run out of time any minute now, and I don't want to get caught up in another starting a conversation that I can't finish. I don't even know what I'm going to do with the time I got on the other camera because I don't know, something's going on with these fucking cameras, and I hate wasting my time. Like, that was just an hour and a half of me talking about shit that I felt that I needed to get out of my system and just talk about it, just throw it out there. Before I even start remastering videos, I need to start talking openly about some of these things. So I'm just gonna let the camera roll, let the true creators work flow through so we can have some appreciation for it, and I'll be back. So I guess the point I was trying to get to earlier too about the chemtrails that everyone ignores is letting you all know that with the evidence of the creation of mud floods, what could possibly, when you think about the stories of the Tartarian timeline ending, and you think about some of the other resets that we had, we're told about these mud floods and what created them. What kind of miracle could it be that created these mud floods? The same way that we do it today, claiming that when we make claims to ourselves and to each other, using, let's say, California or Hawaii as two good examples. Those were energy weapons. Those were direct energy weaponry that was used. They just used them like 2 weeks ago in another part of the world. I don't like using the word world. In another part of this earth, they just used them on another country who has little to no understanding at all of anything that I'm explaining about these chemtrails and the ability that we have to control weather, all what we think of as natural earthly things, anomalies, whatever you want to call them. So in order to cause a mud flood, you're not going to only do it by blocking out the sun with the trails. That's not all it took. And even when they wrote about it in the Bible and told you bullshit stories about it, about how long it lasted, what caused it, all that kind of shit. Yeah, it was a volcano, but volcanoes were not a natural event. They never have been a natural event. We knew how to control them the same way we still do today. Unnecessary to use when you have complete control out of the jets, because you could just dump all the heavy metals and minerals you want, and you don't have to wait for them to travel to the other side of the earth. You just pack them into the containers, and we know how to use the carbon system. So therefore, that's what we did. So when you think about how would they do it today, they're already doing it. Listen, if they're already using these energy weapons on us, which they are, provably, for the last 30 years out of jets, they've been dumping out the heavy metals and minerals. They use ships, Doppler radar to steer weather events. They use heavy metals and minerals and electronic propulsion electromagnetic propulsion in order to make earthquakes happen and other weather events and natural events that we call them. Okay, so if you know all that, then why don't anybody have enough appreciation for the fact that they're going to squish all this timeline that we've been going through this over the last 30, 50 years? They can push it into one event. The same way that the people who are calling out the Tartarian timelines, they're calling it out saying, wait a minute, this wasn't a one-time event. What happened was they lied about several hundred years. 400 years here, 300 years there. That's just one part of it. We just cracked the surface on the reality and the truth of this. So that means that the one thing that we're cracking is we're just touching on it. You have to look at the even bigger picture than even what the Tartarian conspirators are claiming. You have to look at it, because what they're saying is that what we called the final mud flood may not have been a final mud flood. What may have been was everything that the Freemasons were calling the Dark Ages may have just been 1,000 years of what we were calling God, 1,000 years of enlightenment. And that was the end of that 1,000 years of enlightenment, because they claim that they released Satan from his hole. So if they released Satan from the hole then, and that's what caused the volcano, I guess, at the same time to happen, what they're getting at is this is not something that just happened only because of the volcano caused the mud floods. What these Tartarian realists are trying to find out is what I'm showing you, is the fact that we're so lied to about absolutely everything that later, when it gets to our children and grandchildren looking back on this time, they're going to look back at it the same way we're now looking back on the Tartarian timeline and saying, wait a minute, none of this makes sense. Hopefully they don't have to make it all the way to the end of another fucking timeline, because by that time no humans will be necessary at all. It's bad enough now they only feel they need 500 million humans. That sounds like it's only their family to me. I mean, I'm saying hundreds of thousands of them all over the earth, but really we're all stretched out offspring from the original 13 families. Were those original 13 families that were passed down from Adam and Eve? How many Adam and Eves were there? Were there an Adam and Eve for every color? Yeah, there was. Yeah, there was. And each one only claims their own Adam and Eve. So I guess in long and short of it all is that we are our own worst enemy. The zombie slaves forced into slavery, I don't know if that's actually the right way to put that, because we're offered freedom all the time. I'm offering you freedom. I've been offering you the freedom for years, and everybody passes on it. Not only do you pass on it, but you're so embarrassed by the thought of what I'm even showing you and explaining to you. You're so embarrassed by it, you won't even share it with other people who might get it, understand it, see it, know it. But you're too embarrassed. You think that, oh my God, if I sent this to my parents, they'd fucking freak out. If I sent this to my cousin Joey in California, he'd think I was nuts. So you always need a fall guy. You always need somebody to fall back on, to blame. That's me. That's me, the crazy guy that's doing YouTube videos. Conspiracy guy. Moon guy. Whatever the fuck you want to put on the name. Chemtrail guy. I used to be a chemtrail guy. Whatever. It all works. Because it's not going to be a matter of the words coming out of my mouth. You all should know that anything coming out, rolling off the human tongue, coming past the human lips is a fucking lie. There's no exceptions. There's no exceptions. Yes, I would love to think to myself as the almighty truth teller of the world, but that would be a lie, because even the word world is a lie. So that's what I mean by everything out of my mouth is a lie. It's the same thing with all of us. It's just that I have an easier time admitting it because I know the fucking system. I can see the system. So it doesn't hurt my feelings to admit, yeah, I've been lying to myself all my life. I've been lying to everybody else all my life. So even when I'm making attempts to showing them the truth and telling them the truth, I know there's a huge difference in that. Because what I'm showing you without talking, if I don't use my words and I keep my mouth shut, what you can see is the truth and the reality, because you're seeing it. I'm not. That still actually is a lie. Let me reiterate that one. That's still a lie because it's being shown to you on a camera. The camera is a fucking lie. So therefore you have to go investigate yourself. You have to go look with your own eyes. Yes, use a camera as a viewing device, because then when you go download the videos and you go back and remaster the videos, you will understand even more and you will see them more clearly with your own eyes. The camera will be unnecessary. That includes the visual of the moon. When you're digitally collecting the EMNC from the moon and you're digitally collecting the timelines from the moon and understanding them, then you're realize all these things that I'm telling you were true, but not until you see them for yourself and you have a knowing for yourself. Should you count anything that I'm saying as truth and reality? Not hurting my feelings by that. What does hurt my feelings that everything else everybody else tells you, you take it as truth and reality, and what I'm showing you and telling you, you won't even second guess the realities of it. You say automatically, because my parents told me this and my teachers told me that and my friends told me this, so therefore everything that you're saying is opposite of what they told me. So sorry, can't listen, gotta change it. Hello. Yeah, he did, so I was happy. Yeah, everything went good, huh? Nah. You go ahead and eat. Nah, I don't usually eat on the road anyway, so I'll wait till I get home. Oh, you know what? Grab me a batch of those fries. Those fries were really good. I'll eat them when I get home. All right, thank you. If not, all right, well then, no, don't go out of your way. Don't go out of your, unless you're walking right by it, then. All right. All right, sounds good. All right. I love you. See you in about an hour. You'll be back. All right. All right. Sounds good. All right, bye. You know, it's funny too, thinking about all this with the Tartarian timelines coming into play now and everything, is that over the years, anybody that was looking into any of these conspiracy things, you always wondered about the lower level Freemasons and why they found it so easy to sell out. When you see that they're killed off, bumped off, sometimes really killed, sometimes they're just sent off to another place, because the true creators images that I'm showing you now in the camera at the cloud level, earlier in the trees, because it's the same faces being used over and over and over again, millions of them, I'm sure, millions of different faces and facial features and all these different little colors is another differences and all kinds of things, right, of the differences. But there's still only so many. It's not infinite. So we have, when we're all born into the bio realm, then we have what's being born into the bio realm, we have what's called doppelgangers. So doppelgangers, when it comes down to doppelgangers, you can see how easy it is to slip people in and out of the fake system, to be set them up as psyops, to set them up as famous musicians, movie stars. And if they decide they want out of the system, depending on how they leave is going to depend whether their death is real or whether their death is a psyop. Kind of like with the Charlie Kirk thing that just happened. I've seen that happen so many times, it's not even funny, it's ridiculous. Sometimes someone may accidentally die, like in the case of Paul McCartney or other people that died in car accidents and accidents, and the character that they played was not ready to be given up on yet. The distraction that the Beatles created for them at that particular time in the 1960s, they needed so many distractions. They were pulling off a lot of different things: fake moon landing, fake president death, fake, everything fake bullshit stories, right? Industrial revolution lies, automobile technology lies, televisions coming out, and all these in other words, television in every home kind of thing, to be able to lie to you more efficiently than the books, that kind of shit. So as all these fucking lies were all happening everywhere, it's funny, looking at it, back at it, and see about these Freemasons, because you say to yourself, all right, well, first of all, why would you ever even knowingly join, right? Okay, money, fame, power, that would be some of the reasons. We hear a lot of them admit that it's happening, but they can't come out and talk about it like I am right now. They have to say things. For example would be, what's his name? I hate the singer too. What's his name? I can't. Bob Dylan. So Bob Dylan, sucky, shitty fucking musician that everybody loved. Terrible, whiny voice. He'll admit it. He admits it. All of his work, all of his poetry and everything, all garbage. He never wrote anything good. He just takes the songs from the ether, the melodies from the ether, from the false creator, and he uses them in order to distract the rest of us. And then that his talent is propagandized as being good music and a good poet, just like they did with every other thing, just like the feminist movement would be another example. They bring out these famous people to claim that women are being treated like shit and they need to have more that. What did they do with that? What did they do with it? They pulled all the women away from the children. They pulled the women out of the fucking household. They claimed that they had equal rights and to be slaves just like the men, and we're going to make sure we oversee that. And we were all stupid enough to go along with it and said, oh yeah, feminine revolution, blah, blah, blah. Let's burn the bras and show the titties and all this kind of, let's go for some more perversion and things that, right? So we did that. We went along with all that crap. The camera's going to die any minute now. So the thing is about that, though, is that as that's all happening, another reasoning behind that could be, and we're told that it is, they're part of the 13 families at the top. They're branches and branched off from the 13 families at the top. So if all 13 families at the top are all Luciferians, they're all under different religions that are based on duality, and that's why they all show their gang sign symbols of duality all the time, and all these famous people. So does that mean that all of them, none of them are Tartarian? And is anybody that escapes fame, that's not allowed to have power, fame, wealth, notoriety, all of us that are not allowed those things, does that automatically prove that we were the Tartarians, they were the Luciferians, and we totally lost over and over again for 10,000 years up until now, when we're ready to go through another reset, and we just lose further and further we go through time? When I say through time, I mean the false creator / creator's time, through the human clock. Do we just keep losing because we pretend to believe all these lies? The clock would be another example. We go by clock that has time missing in it, zeros added and time missing from our clock, and we're okay with that. And we said, oh, that's just what they did, that's just what they do, that's all natural. Human technology is growing and growing, so you got to get with the times. No, that's not what's happening. The technology is going backwards, not forward. The technology is getting shittier and shittier. We've lost connection with each other through an energy that's all around us. We're surrounded by the true creator's energy, building everything in his realm, but yet we have to be within 6 feet of each other to even feel each other's connections. That's what we're told. I'm trying to explain to you that you can be thousands of miles away from your loved ones, and that connection is right there. You're in the same 6 feet already, even though you're thousands of miles away. Your energy is connected, as if you were just a few feet away. You can get it out of your mind, this confusion about time and space meaning anything other than rules that are only meant for the bio realm. They're only meant for the human conception and the human concepts. They're not meant for reality. The reality is we all live in the true creator's energy, and we can connect, communicate through that energy, no matter how far away we are from each other. That's why somebody in Poland listening to this video right now when it's playing should get the same energy from my voice, even though it's going to be many days later, months later, you'll be listening to this video. Keep in mind that on this day, whatever the date is, I don't even fucking know because I don't pay attention, 23rd, 24th, something like that, of September of 2025. So when you listen to this, no matter what time it is, remember that in the true creator's energy, time is all one. So therefore, I'm talking right now on this time of day, on this date, but when you hear this video in 2 months, 3 months, years from now, remember that it's in the true creator's energy, it's the same time. So you don't have to worry and say, oh, this is old information. This guy already said this years ago. I just never saw the video. That doesn't work that way on my videos, on my channel, out of the shit that comes out of my mouth. You don't have to play by those rules, because I'm explaining to you in the video, the same video that I explained a whole bunch of other shit, that you can all go see this for yourselves with your own eyes, understand the true creator's energy, and let's start using it. Let's take back our system, fellow Tartarians. And just like the same way I'm telling you that the moon has to be renamed, the earth has to be renamed, what we know of as the solar system, and everything has to be renamed. They have to have realistic names put on them. Maybe at one time they did have real names put on them, but our languages have all been changed. Letters have been added, letters that were unnecessary, some letters that are so harmful to the human concept and the human bio realm, all the entire bio realm, because it hurts the other animals of the earth as well. We didn't allow the dogs, the feline and the canine, were not allowed to walk the earth free. In the last 100 years, we've killed them off to the point where they're only pets in our homes. There are very few, not even enough to mention. Even though they may not be extinct yet, they're on the list and ready for extinction. So they're right there, dangling on extinction, the same way that we will be when we're down to 500 million. So even at 7.8 billion on the Earth, the size that it actually is, not on the 25,000 mile radius that they tell you on a flat Earth model called the geocentric model, and not on the heliocentric model that is even worse, that they tell you is a 25,000 mile ball. It's none of those things. It's none of the things that they told us it was, that we tell ourselves that it is, that we pretend to believe in. It's not any of those things. It's much better than that, bigger than that. It's better and bigger than the God that you think that you believe in. I see a lot of that on the Tartarian channels too. Is a lot of people, the same thing that happened under the Flat Earth movement. Under the Flat Earth movement, you had a lot of people bringing religions back to the Flat Earth thing. And I tried reminding them then, at that time, that I was looking into all that as well. I was trying to explain to people, don't fall for it. It's another fucking trick. It's another trick. That's why I had to do my own, what was considered scientific research, which is also all falsities. 8 inches per mile square, and got us up on the mountains and looking into shit that it didn't matter how much we proved it to ourselves. Nobody else was going to look. Nobody else was going to be interested. All he did was exegecated. What's the word? You threw out a lot of people out of your life while searching for those answers, because they were mad just because you were searching for them. And then all the people that realized that the Flat Earth movement was a scam, a psyop, what happened was they tried to backstep, but it was already too late. Their family already knew them as nutcases, believing in such nonsense, not understanding and appreciating that the nonsense that they believed in, the rest of them, heliocentrics, were even crazier than the fucking Flat Earth fucking bullshit stories. Made less sense than the Flat Earth stories. Went less likely to be proven, right? You can only prove it with fantasy, imagination, and belief systems. That's the only way. But yet you all believe in it and contradict your own words constantly, defending a heliocentric model that was all made up, the same way that the geocentric model was all made up. Although closer to reality, still all fake. And yet families were divided over it, the same way that they were over the COVID, the same way they were, so we understand, under the plague, when we had the plague breakout, or any of the other famines that they talked about before the last major reset. Because that's what we all assumed. We all assumed that because we were told it in the books. So we heard stories about a family member getting sick and acting crazy because they had high fever. So therefore the husband would turn in the wife and say that the wife was sick and ill with this illness, how they got the illness, whether they dumped shit out of the air, whether it was volcanic eruptions that were being used against us, and we breathed the air in over the next 50 years after the volcano erupted. All kinds of ways that we could have, in the water, that the volcanic eruptions could have settled in the water in certain areas, all this kind of shit. But because we were lied to about everything that was even happening at that time, we went along with it. But then the lies only seemed to get worse and worse as time went on. It seemed like those portions of history just got erased. Nobody had the ability to overlook all the lies and say, wait a minute, that don't make no fucking sense. So you're saying husbands were turning in their wives as witches when they got a fever, and then they would be taken, and then once the wife was taken, the husband had no way of raising the children anymore? So therefore, the children were taken and sent to the Americas? That doesn't make any fucking sense. So they were sent to these foster home work camps, because that's what those were, work camps all over the earth. And then the ones that were from the Americas, the same thing was happening, and they were being sent to Europe, and they were being sent to Asia, and they were being sent to Russia. This does not make any fucking sense. So the same things that were, so you had you had it going on in Ireland. You had the potato famine, right? So the potato famine going on at the same time of other famines that were going on, other parts of the earth. And then as families died off, the adults would die off and the children would then be sent, sometimes with the parent. If the parent was a good zombie slave and went along with all the lies, sometimes all of the family would be sent to these concentration headquarters that they all went and lived at. They lived there and they worked there. They were zombie slaves. And they got little food, little attention, no respect, no honor, no nothing. And we were told that all these people, these same people, were fighting wars. They were fighting civil wars at the same time that they were supposedly had. They were digging out tunnels, putting down tracks, we were told, because somehow those tunnels got there. Somehow these massive fucking buildings that were built under the Tartarian timelines, somehow these people that had nothing, barely the clothes on their own back, somehow got it together and built these amazing structures that we can't even build all the way to today, hundreds of years later, thousands of years later in some cases, tens of thousands of years later in other cases. And we're told that we can't do it today, but yet somehow these people with bare feet, no clothing, somehow did this. No hope. They had no fucking hope. Mother's dead, possibly father's dead. But the other one gets thrown into an insane asylum because the mother died. So now the father's got to go off to an insane asylum. The kids go off to an orphanage in another country. Same shit we just did in other countries. We do it all the time, every fucking year. Not a year goes by where we're not doing something along those lines all over the earth. And we just did it in Ukraine. We're doing it in Palestine. The Palestinian people have a chance to live a little longer if they all leave their homeland, right? It's the same shit. We're doing it there as well. We're throwing people out of their fucking lands and making them go to other places. So over the last 40 years since we've been in Palestine, and when I say we, I mean America's, because let's face it, they're all connected. Everybody's connected. Iran knows that America's bombing them when they bomb them. It's the leaders at the top, people. It's not the zombie slaves. The zombie slaves have the privilege of pretending that these lies are based on reality. That's the privilege we've been given. In order to keep our sanity and stay somewhat feeling safe, we just pretend to go along with these lies, because there's nobody dumb enough to believe any of this bullshit that they've been doing for all of these years. There's really not. We just pretend to believe it. Our parents told us that was easier to just do that, just to go along to get along. They won't take us out all the way if we pretend that we're, oh yeah, this is great, wonderful, oh yeah. Better than the Dark Ages, they'll tell us. My generation never had it so good, they'll tell us. Yeah, bullshit. We're even watching that same war go on right now with the baby boomers against Generation Z with the employment bullshit, right? Because there's no fucking jobs right now. The jobs are all fucking gone. They've been gone for a long time. We gave all our factories over to other countries, mostly China, over the last 100 years. We knew that the Industrial Revolution here was shifting. We've known that we now live in a material world country. Same with Canada. All the Americas pretty much. So an economy is based on services. We're not based on building anything, making anything, producing anything. We've known that for a long time. So all these baby boomers that are pretending that their generation, yeah, that was the end, the very end, the last little tricklings of the Industrial Revolution. That's what they got to enjoy. And that's what I was saying earlier. They should not have enjoyed it. They should have been warning their children instead of saying to their children, oh, you got to go get a college education because you want a better job. You don't want to, be stuck working in the factory all your life. Even though I was able to pay off our house, have enough money for us to live. We had 2 cars in the family. Your mother didn't have to work. She could stay home and cook and raise the kids. And we had this other, what we considered at the time to be a better life. But it wasn't. It was still a worse of a life than we previously had before that. But every generation, we tell ourselves, oh, the next generation's better and better, smarter and smarter, and whoop-de-boop-ba-boo. All lies, all bullshit that we can easily prove are lies. So right now you got a lot of baby boomers that are arguing with the Gen Zers, saying how lazy they are and shit like that. Bullshit, man. They're fucking putting their whole fucking lives, the ones that are stupid enough to do it, all these people, all in here, because they're all going to fucking college to get an education. For what? For what? You don't need it. Forget it. So hundreds of thousands of dollars by the time most of them graduate. 20,000, 40,000 per semester for part-time courses and all this shit. And then this is not one of the best colleges. It's just a college. So the other ones that they call better are supposedly the Harvard and these Freemason colleges and all this shit like that. They're no better. They're all liars too. That's why the Freemasons are in for a big fucking awakening, and they should have been for a long time. But I don't think they have any choice. I think they're threatened. I think that they're threatened once they make it to these certain stages. It's known that, look, if you don't play along, then we got to take you out of the system. And it's just a known fact. I was starting to say earlier about Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan talked about it. That's how he got his fame and his fortune and his acknowledgement by the slaves was through his music, right? And that's how he got his fame and fortune and everything, was to sell out to what he called Satan. I don't know if he called him Satan, Lucifer maybe, or maybe even, the one, he says, the one. That's how he worded it. But that's just one example of thousands and thousands of people have come out and admitted that they're Freemasons and Illuminati and shit, through their hand signals and their hand gestures. And then when you call them out on it, the other zombie slaves will all be in denial of it, whether Tartarians or fellow lower ranking Freemasons. They're always in denial of reality. So they'll come out and say, oh, come on, you think that Obama and Michelle Obama and Barack were really holding their hands in that position because it's a Freemason sign? Yeah, it is. And Trump, you think Trump is real? Yeah, they do. Yeah, it is. There's no reason to even doubt it. Well, I'm wondering why you're even doubting it. Because, yeah, it's all reality. you know, you got Prince, Amy Winehouse, JFK, Marilyn Monroe, just to throw some Freemason names out there of people that supposedly had died off. We don't know where they go. I still have not even shown you guys yet, not in this series anyways, the moon map model, the actual model of the earth that we walk on is all mapped out for us in the moon. It's the way the false creator/creator made it so that we would know the earth that we walk on all the time. We could use knowing where the timelines are by looking at the moon. We know how we can use the true creator's energy and the false creator/creator's work to freely move around in this system and use it to travel, move around, whether physically or mentally. Either way, pretty much the same thing. You got every singer, actress, movie star, anybody that's ever had any fame or fortune in Hollywood, television, characters, you name it. How many of them acknowledging that they're all Freemasons and Illuminati and whatever, Luciferians, we'll call them, knowing that they are, then I have to ask myself next is, they don't know what I'm showing you. So what caused them to sell out? When let's say the character that we knew as Prince, was he born into it and told about certain parts of it? You're going to be famous. You're going to be surrounded by fame and fortune and blah, blah. But was he told about it at 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old? Growing up, did he know? Did somebody come along and tell him? Was his family story even based on reality? I don't think it was. Did he really have the childhood he claimed? Growing up, watching his father be drunk and beating the mother and all that? Or was that just black human programming that was put into us because he was half black and half white? So was that just part of our programming and that was nothing to do with his real life story? Was he born into the cabal and his family was really wealthy like most of these other wealthy people are? They're all born into it one way or another, and they're not Tartarians that are born into this. That's the other funny thing about all this. The Tartarians are guaranteed to be poor, poverty-stricken, in other words, middle class even, same thing, because the middle class is about to learn a big fucking lesson too. But the Freemasons, the lower level Freemasons, they're at the top of our food chain. They're going to be in the millionaire to multimillionaire categories. They're not seeing any problems yet still. It's all the poor and the middle class that are right now recognizing more and more of these lies, the bullshit stories. They're waking up more and more. Credit is being given to the solar system is opening up, and that's why more and more people are waking up. I'm not buying that. I don't think more and more people are waking up. They don't seem to be on my channel. There are a lot of people waking up to more and more lies, but that's why I'm saying be careful about the Tartarian timelines. They may be just more fucking lies that we're supposed to go down the rabbit holes. It's going to be a lot of truth in there, though. A lot of truth in reality that you're going to be able to prove the way I'm showing you how to prove it. Not by going to these books that were written by humans. Not going to these maps that were written by humans. Just like the flat earth map model, the geocentric model. It's a lie. It's not based on reality, that model. But it was put out there purposely by the Freemasons in order to get everybody arguing, fighting, distracted by showing something that has reality in it. What would the reality in that be right off the top of the bat? I'll tell you the reality that I seen in the Flat Earth movement right away was that all my life I knew that I was not on a spinning wet pararocket ball. I always knew, just like you all know, you have an instinct in you that tells you an energy. You want to call it God, you want to call it Satan, call it whatever the fuck you want. We all have a shared connection and an energy that we can use to know things. And one of the things that we all know is that we are not living on a spinning wet pararocket ball. But yet we all decided to go along with it. So that was my reasoning for when I heard the words out of President Obama's mouth, I don't have time for a meeting with the Flat Earth Society. And he said this twice. He said this at 2 press conferences over a few-week period. And you knew that was the release. That was the wake-up call to anybody, any Tartarian that was out there, or a Freemason that also realized that they're not really free because they're too low-level Freemason to be really free. Those might be the ones that are in the Elks Club, right? They're all Elks Club members, or they're the Shriners, right? They're all Shriners, also lower level, lower tier Luciferians, right? The Catholic Church, anybody that belongs to the Catholic Church, they're also giving prayer to Lucifer, but claiming that they're giving prayer to God, right? This kind of thing. So all these twisted fucking people are lower level cabal, lower level Freemasons. They will never know the truth and the reality that I'm showing you. So if they come to it accidentally and they see it, they're not allowed to share it. They're not allowed to share the truth and reality until it's twisted up and there's so many fucking lies that it can be put out there. That's the same thing I'm warning you about the Tartarian system. They might be doing is projecting that the Tartarians will have a major awakening, and if the real awakening has to be hidden by a false awakening, by a fakery. It's starting to rain out, so I'm going to go back in here to the trees where I was before. Still going to get rained on anyway. Alright, this should be the last couple minutes of this video anyway, so I'm just going to digital collect an electromagnetic nanocarbon from the bark on this tree over there.